Hello, everyone. We are live with no intro. This is
Nope,
just an
not this time.
impromptu chat. Snapper's here. Duke's gonna be here, but he's running a little behind. He's been at work all day, so yeah. We just thought we haven't had a chat in a long time. Been so busy. Thought we'd jump on here and have a little impromptu chat. And
Yeah,
let me go see. Doug Dukes is in. He said, "Hey Duke, hope you are well." He is. I just talked to him. He's on his way home, and he'll be on here in a little bit, possibly. Louisiana Gray said, "I'll be here." Snapper, he must be on your channel.
awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Diane,
Louisiana Gray.
Diane Houston says, "Hello, everyone." Stephen M. Mann said, "Well, yes, Mountain Man is still plugging away. Is anybody here? Disciple of Christ said, Big Snafu, what's going on, brother? Got a beautiful first gen Navy to show you."
Ooh, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
George Goodings in says, "Good evening." Louisiana Gray said, "Hello, all." Oregon Outback said, "Hello to everyone east of me." Outlaw Man said, "Howdy, fellas." Constitutional Carpenter says, "Ahoy." Kodak Tackman said, "Surprise, surprise." Serpent Hanzo said, "Hi, folks." RJ Gunn said, and stuff said, "Howdy." Well, yeah, Lucy Gray, we may talk about that hand cannon a little bit here. We get there. Lone Dragoon said, "Hello, folks." Shot Shoe said, "Hi, guys." Old West History said, "Hi, everyone." Loops Hobbies and More says, "Hi there." Hardy says, "Hello,
Hmm?
you silly humans." And Garza Vlog says, "Evening." And Gas Loco says, "Good evening." Wow, that's a
Yeah,
good crowd for an
good
impromptu
credit
chat
right for
right
the
there.
beginning. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Mm. Well, Snapper, you have a subject that you've been talking to me about that you want to discuss. It's heavy on your mind.
It's been very heavy on my mind. And it's just because we've had to answer so many questions on it. And the way I used to feel about it years ago and the way I feel about it now have completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is don't touch that thing. It belongs in a museum. And I used to believe that, really strongly used to believe that, wanted to a fault actually. But now I believe one of the last places a gun should go is to a museum. Like there are some good ones, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to realize most of these guns back here at one time were probably in a museum.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to donate your grandfather's or your family's heirloom because you want it to be in a museum to be preserved for history. And the second you turn around, when that museum has uh, a fundraising need, they're going to auction away your gun. That is how it always happens. If they don't have one already, which I promise you, 99% of guns they do, unless you have something incredibly rare,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to either be stuck in a storage unit, so nobody will see it forever, or it's going to be sold. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter how, unless it is just one of a kind and the museum doesn't have it, it could be end up on a rotating. But the likelihood of whatever gun you have actually going on display in a museum or become permanent in the museum for the museum's history is unbelievably unlikely. It is so much more likely that it might sit there for a couple years, couple decades, maybe even, but it will end up on the market. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe to these days now, uh, the majority of modern collectors, we've gotten out of that section like
Mm-hmm.
in the 40s, 50s, and 60s where Bubba would buy a cheap gun and just destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
Bubba's still out there, but he's not quite as prevalent as he used to be because now these guns are starting to become valuable. They're very valuable. That Bubba doesn't usually buy them because
Mm-hmm.
Bubba usually buys something very, very cheap. So now I believe that the majority of individuals who end up buying these antique guns, as long as they, which most of them know the steps of keeping them clean, make sure it's clean, make sure it's away from humidity, the common stuff, oiled it, even shooting it doesn't hurt it.
Actually
And
helps it.
I believe it's so too. I think it actually helps it. These guns, I always tell this to people when we were actually building race engines. Even Ford did this in the 60s when they were trying to be Ferrari. they would actually not use a brand new engine block. They would pull an engine out of a car that already had 100,000 miles to block, and then they would let it sit outside for a year to try to get any of the built-in stresses of the metal out of it, and then they would remachine it and then turn it into a race engine. And it's one of those things that these guns, even though they have built up pressures over time, but shooting it can sometimes cause pressures to rise, but it can also take away pressures. And it's all about doing like harming the gun versus normally shooting it. If you're not abusing it, you're not harming it. And soft lead with lower powered rounds, these guns could take it for the rest of their lives, longer than you and I could ever live, and be shot constantly. And you would never see a real degradation in the firearm at all.
That's what I was about to say. People are under the false impression that iron and steel, even without rust, degrades over time, which it doesn't, as long as it's not.
Does not.
It's not like
as long as it does not corrode. Away. Yep. Now, some metals can work hardened. Some can, and there's ways of even hardening things again or taking away the work hardening. But on your average steel that is used in these firearms, they don't work hardened. You're not going to run into any of these problems. These guns, you can shoot them forever and it won't harm them. The problem then comes in is if you're shooting, like, you're just going crazy and putting the biggest loads you can through it, and you're shooting it a bajillion times like that, and you're not cleaning the gun. As long as you show reverence for the gun and take care of it, you're not going to harm it. No more than it's sitting on a shelf would. Matter of fact, most of these guns that I've seen with most problems is because they sit on a shelf. Nobody opened them up.
At them.
Yep.
Now,
I've seen guns that are gorgeous.
There is a round count on springs a lot of times to an extent.
Yes.
But also, that's not the gun. And say a muzzle loading rifle. We always get it on like muzzle loading rifles. People are like, you shouldn't be shooting that old flintlock or whatever. It's like, so if it takes 150,000 rounds to break that spring, which very well could be, do you know how long most of those old guns would take to reach that round count? It's not like a Glock where you're going to blow through 500 rounds in an afternoon, and then you have to worry about it.
Well, one thing, too, is a lot of the reasons why these old springs break, it's because there's some kind of corrosion that ends up on the spring. And it also could just be from sitting for so long. The spring, I'm trying to word this right so it doesn't sound stupid. It doesn't work hardened, but it doesn't.
It loses
it
tension.
Kind of can. It can lose its tension over time, and also any corrosion at all can create a fine area that a crack can propagate, and as soon as it starts, it's done. Matter of fact, I don't do this personally, but it would actually be a smart thing to do. And the only reason I don't do this personally because I don't shoot my guns with the original springs. I just don't like doing it. Is you could actually retemper your springs. You can get them red hot, requench them, and then retemper them. And if you do that with a proper setup, those springs will last forever. That is technically now a brand spanking new spring once you retemper it. Yeah. But if you as long as you polish an original spring, you'll be fine. Yeah, just make sure there's no corrosion on it. It'll be fine.
So do you think that a flat spring like that's reworked over and over again will last longer than a coil spring? Does it matter?
Ooh, that's a good one.
There's a lot more.
If you're within its limits, yes.
See, I've often
the reason why
because I don't feel like flat springs lose their tension as quickly as coil springs.
No, and the reason is the amount of metal you're working with. You're working with a bigger chunk of metal over pressures that are shorter versus a small piece of metal over really long distances. Yeah. That's why a coil spring is like less likely to break on you.
Yeah,
but it also can lose its tension because of just the work hardening effect, or it can lose its tension by plastification, overstretching, then understretching, overstretching, then. But when it comes to the reason why leaf springs are considered not as good as coil springs is because there is more tension per surface area, and that is important because if you get it wrong, it will break, and that's a lot of tension over certain small areas. But go ahead.
I was going to say I didn't get some comments, but AR American has said something that I want to point out here. He said,
Sure.
I wear out hammer springs at 1 a month, which he's doing a fanning triple shot on a single
Mm.
action army clone. But I have noticed this. Italian springs wear out quicker, and I don't know why. The
They're not
Italian made
harder. You know why? It's
wear out
simple. It's
quicker.
easy. The way they temper the spring is if you temper a spring on a lighter temper, like the more temper it is. So the hotter the temper gets, you have more chance of you have less of a chance of it actually structurally failing. It'll just start to bend over time
Mm-hmm.
and lose tension. And then you could actually bend it back and keep going until you end up stress fracturing it. But when cheaper springs, and the safer position is to always over temper the spring because then it's going to bend. If you under temper it, you know it's going to hold its tension a lot longer and never let down, but it also has a higher chance of cracking and breaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why. It's A, the quality of spring steel they're using, and B, they over temper them so they'll bend instead of break. Now, I'm curious on ARs. Is he's wearing them out is because they just stopped getting enough pressure to set off cartridges, or are they actually breaking?
No, maybe he can comment that. Let's get through a few comments. Hardy said, traded in a cap and ball Pietas for full stock flintlock hawk, and now I just need to get a new shooting bag set up for it. Yes.
Nice.
I generally say try not to scrimp on the bag. It's the one thing you're going to actually use more than the rifle and the horn. Old one guy said hi all. Soylent Green said evening. Serpent Hanzo said awesome hat, Garrett. Yeah.
That is a nice hat, isn't it?
I found this one in a secondhand store for a couple bucks, and I got it because Plowboy has one just like it, but it's a darker gray. Imagine that.
Is that the one that you reshaped yourself, or no?
No. This is a fedora style. It's just a common one. No, actually, the black one that I always wear is the one I reshaped. I reshaped several of them actually, but anyway, Turkey Creek 1823 has been in here. Oregon Outback, when you said don't touch that, it belongs in a museum. Oregon Outback said folks have said that about me. Pablo Sniper said greetings from Brazil.
Nice.
Stephen M. Mann said I may be a museum piece. Constitutional Carpenter said they belong above the mantle. Yes.
Yes. I'd rather see them there than...
Unless you're actually building wood fires in that wood stove, then probably not best to put them over the mantle. It'll dry them out really quick. But we see that all the time, and I actually that's kind of funny. A comment there. I actually had a museum curator. One of the she belongs to the Alden Fellowship for the James Alden House at Plymouth, and she's like, when you think about it. And she's actually builds guns, which is kind of cool she's an older lady museum curator who actually builds flintlock and snap-ons and matchlock firearms. Just cool. But she's like, when you think about it, that's the absolute worst place to put your firearm. And she said, not because it might get hot and go off, but she's like, any oil that's in that wood, if your fire is getting warm right there by that chimney, she's like, you dry one side. And she said she sees it all the time on old guns because they did it, but it'll dry one side of the stock out and it'll be a different color. The other side.
Makes sense. It actually makes sense.
Let's see. Soylent Green said, just hope Demo Ranch doesn't get his hands on them. Did you see his video on the Singer in North American Arms 1911 today? $500,000 in 1911s they made. I did not watch it. I don't always watch his stuff unless it's something I'm going to be really interested in. And anytime I see that they're going to bring an antique firearm onto that show, I just hide my eyes. You got the money, do whatever you want, man, whatever you think, I guess. But it's not my deal.
Sometimes you just don't want to see it. Well, TFB, when he actually took that 1903 pocket hammerless and he Cerakoted one and then put a red dot on it, the whole 9 yards, I was like, oh. But it's his gun. It's his gun.
Yep.
I'm just glad he didn't do it with the really nice one he was pretending to do it with.
Loops, Hobbies, and More says Bubba buys a High Point, LOL.
Yep.
Turkey Creek said he's working on guns and knives. Cool. Can't wait to see the next one you get turned out. Stephen M. Mann said, made a video. I thought you'd appreciate the youth shooting flintlocks. Yes, it came up. I have not had a chance to
I
watch
think
it
I
yet.
saw that the other day. Is it brand spanking new? I saw a video of you shooting with like three gentlemen. I believe it was three gentlemen.
I have been out of signal for forever. And so when a lot of times they come up, I don't get a chance to watch them till later. So I have a backlog that I have to catch up on. Stephen Sheets said, 11 bang bang and snapper. Good evening, gentlemen.
Well, good evening,
Okay.
Stephen.
Shot Shula said, some friends and I were talking about this the other day. The rifles at IMA are rotting away because they aren't used and managed, whereas those of us who have and keep them are in good shape. Very true. You got any thoughts on that?
It's unbelievably common and it's sad. And
Yeah.
the part is what is the best way to approach it? Like it in those situations, it's usually up to the owners or the curator. And that is just kind of how it is.
Well, I found out from experience a lot of those that were sitting in the Tibet cache that they were importing are wormwood 8. And
very
I'm
badly,
actually working on a stock right now from I think it was IMA, but I'm actually working on a stock right now. But Ethan looked at it and gave up and ordered a new stock because it was shattered in about 15 pieces when it showed up, ate up with wormwood. I've been meticulously for the past few weeks, every chance I get, going in and gluing a piece on, and then I find a wormhole and I will fill it with sawdust and wood glue with it as much as I possibly can. I'm just seeing if it'll work eventually. It's getting a new stock anyway, but I'm trying to salvage that. That stock was made in 1830, so I hate to lose it.
That'd be nice if it did. I've been considering getting one of those. I wish I could have got one of the old Martini Henrys when they're selling those. But they got some pretty nice brown vest kits, like an original barrel, but with like brand new wood. It's like, my little original parts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really dealt with too many of their guns, though. I
can tell you this: if you get them, the best thing you can do is take that dude as soon as it comes out of the mail, stick that stock in the freezer, and leave it there for about 3 weeks.
Kill off the wormwood.
Those worms were still alive in that dude. You could hear them if you held the wood up to your ear. You could hear them, but I stuck it in the freezer for over a week. That's usually what it takes to kill them. So, let's see. Soylent Green said, guns' biggest enemies are rest and politicians.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep. RJ's Guns and Stuff said, I got a Marlin 26 pump gun from an auction. Every flat spring in that guy was so corroded that even if you looked at them funny, they would break. Okay, so on that subject, here's what I find with corroded flat springs. If you can polish them down past any pitting without losing the tension, they won't break and you can salvage them.
Mm-hmm.
Because any scratch or pit, that's where it's going to happen. But
now you want to go. Yeah, go ahead.
Grain. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you keep going. You're no need for me to interrupt. You're doing it.
No, you have to polish them with the grain. And if you get down too far, you're going to lose your tension. But if you want to salvage the spring, you can get them down past the pitting if they're pitted.
And if you are worried that it has degraded because you had to take a lot of the metal away, it would be a good idea to retemper the spring as well. And the best way to do that would be with lead. So like your lead pot, instead of a lot of people just use like a matte torch or a regular torch. And the thing about it is if you don't get it even, there's a high chance that you're going to have some areas that are over tempered and then under tempered, and it's just going to break because you under tempered an area. But using a lead pot, you could stick that spring after you've polished it, nice and pretty and shiny. Stick it in there until it's that beautiful dark purple blue. And you can leave it in there as long as it's at a certain temperature. You can get around, I think it was high 700s, low 800 degree Fahrenheit. It's been a long time since I've been to spring, so make sure you look it up to your charts. And always go on the little high side too. So if you do mess it up, it's not a big deal. It's just going to bend a little bit instead of break.
Mm-hmm.
And if you screw that up, just reheat it red and dip it back in some oil and start over again.
To make a coil spring, you need an engineer. To make a flat spring, you need an artisan. Othios from St. Arsenal. I got to say, that's one thing where Ethan has been shining here lately. He's been making all his own springs, and I didn't believe him when he said he could make springs from cast. But they're
Mm.
casting springs out at the rifle shop, and he's making them up. And seem to be working just fine. That wheel lock is just on the verge of being done. He had to leave for a couple weeks for some Army stuff, but he has that. I went down there the other day and looked at his vise on his workbench, and he has that wheel lock pistol setting in there. He has a little bit of inletting to do back on the tang of the barrel, and he has to shine it up, and it'll be there. I could not believe he made that thing completely out of cast pieces. I could not believe he got that lock to work. And
That is awesome. I'm glad.
It was a fight. You know how many times he's welded stuff down, cut it off, and then re-welded it back up. It's been a fight. He thought he could do it in a couple of weeks. It's been like 2 months, and he has just. I'm pretty proud of him. He is just.
Well, and now it's a family heirloom. As soon as it's done, now it's a real family heirloom.
Yeah, and that's what he said. Now that I've done a wheel lock, I'm pretty sure I could do a flint lock in about 3 days. But let's see. Soylent Green said, we're talking about the Italian stuff. He said, just like their screws are soft, they damage easy. They're made out of butter. Yep.
Yeah. Now, you can harden unhardenable steel. It sounds dumb, but you can add more charcoal to it. So stick it in a can full of ground up charcoal and stick it in the fire and let it get nice red hot and just leave it there. The longer it's there, the more carbon it soaks up. And then when it's done, pour it out, and you can harden it regularly and then retemper it. You'll be amazed. You could do that pretty much with any steel. Is any soft steel with not enough carbon to harden, you can add the carbon. It's not impossible.
Yep. Gunsmith 4570 said NASA discovered in the 70s that metal can age harden when in storage. So not being used. I didn't know anything
about not being used?
I would imagine. In that case, storage would be worse than actually using it. I don't know how that works,
I know certain metals that would. I didn't think steel would, though. Now I can see it becoming more brittle because of corrosion.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I went to school for this stuff. I should know it off of heart. I don't remember any direct gun metal that we use today that does that, or even in the past, other than like bronze, brass. I mean, that stuff can harden over age by work hardening itself as well. But it wouldn't shock me if I saw what steel they were actually talking about. I'm sure there's something.
Yeah. Whoop, what happened? We lost you. Well, he'll be back. Jared said, don't give anything to a museum. I was going to donate to Gene Autry, but with papers to the National Cowboy Hall of Fame in OKC, they said they were just going to put it in storage. Yes, I actually have quite a bit of experience, believe it or not, with the Hall of Fame in OKC. I've spent a good amount of time in there. And I can promise you, with the exception of the John Wayne gold guns, which I don't even know if they're still on display down there, but with the exception of those gold inlaid John Wayne guns, every other gun they have on display, they've got at least 5 more of them in a drawer in the basement. And so, yeah, that's probably why. Yes, you are back.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened.
You died and you came back. Okay. AR said about his springs, they just get weak, won't strike primer hard enough to set it off. He's just wearing the tension out of them by fanning them. If you just
if you wanted to for your own to reharden them and then actually retemper them, yeah, you can easily redo that. It's because they overtemper them so they don't break.
I would imagine that since he builds side by side elephant rifles, he can probably make a spring.
Oh, I'm sure he could. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he has plenty of abilities to do so.
Yeah. Misty James is in. Mr. Brute said, greetings from the Ozarks in Mizzou. Hardy said, okay, they're talking about the trade there that Hardy made. Grizz's Garage says they put the gun there to keep the powder dry. CBJW said, I wonder if they hung them over. Oh, to keep the talking about hanging over the mantle. I'm a little bit behind, guys. Sorry. Yeah, maybe, but technically, it should be plenty dry anywhere else too.
Well, if you're also heating up, because most people would cook like stews and stuff, you think that would actually put moisture.
Yeah. Well, the woman showed several of them, and I can't remember what it was on, but I was watching a lot of her stuff because she was really, really good. And she was like you actually find more records, even though they are over the fireplace. You'll find more records of them being in the cupboard in the bedroom. She's like, she did a whole thing on it, and she's
That's
like,
cool.
sometimes they're over the fireplace, but she said it generally was very hard on the wood.
You kind of would figure it would because of the constant temperature changes.
Mm-hmm. CBJW said, "Okay, I wonder if they hung them over the fireplace because have like to see them in the middle of the night. Well, that might be a good reason, or over the door. That seems to be another place they're common, over the front door." See, Stephen M. Man said 2 18-year-olds. Grizz Garage said, "I have a CVA Kentucky rifle I've won many matches with. The barrel is shot out, and I'm preparing to rebarrel it." Cool. Josie Wales WI said, "Evening, guys." Ungrateful Present said, "Evening, everyone." Kodak Tackman said, "Don't knock the high points too much. They work, especially the carbines." Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Had several of them in my life, actually. Caleb still has one right now. And that's the one gun that Caleb has lost in a river, really, literally, and he didn't feel too bad about it. Just go get another one. I'm planning on getting a Heritage Arms flintlock. Grizzly Garage. Oh, you mean military Heritage? Yes, those are good guns. They require a little bit of work, but I'm sometimes. But they're good guns. We've shot a lot of them on this channel. I think we have 16 at this point now, something like that.
Yeah.
Of the
I need one. You guys have sold them. You definitely sold them on me. I really want to get one.
Yeah. I think, honestly, we've helped them out a little bit as far as their regular market because they sell a lot of the stuff. I mean, Ethan talks to Robert, so he knows him. And it's like, it's what I like about them. They may be like one day it's like they're trying to fill a 100-gun order for the Outlander TV series, and they'll stop and take the time to customer service with Ethan. So
yeah, that's cool.
And so yeah, that was pretty cool. Need a lizard to feed him. Okay, Josie Wells, a question for you guys: would you hesitate to shoot max charge standard pressure 45 Colt loads out of a Cimarron? I was referring to Spear 250 grain gold dot with 8.8 grains of powder pistol loading.
No, like okay.
There you went again. If it's standard pressure, you're not going to get much more hotter than that 40 grain black powder load in any standard pressure. I'm not sure what gold dot is, but like I shoot 8 grains of unique, which is fairly hot all the time. I don't know if I should go into this or not, but there is what they call the Hank Jr. load, which is supposedly as hot as you want to go. And I've seen people suggest it for you, birdies.
Okay, so what were you saying on that? I'm sorry, I missed it all.
I was just saying that I don't think any standard pressure load is probably going to be hotter than the 40 grain black powder load. As far as it builds its pressure differently, I get that. But I shoot 8 grains of unique a lot with no issue. I don't know how gold dot stands up.
Now, are we talking like a Cimarron like bot gun that is like, say, like a single action army? Or are we talking like, say somebody bought a...
No, he said Cimarron.
Oh, so it would be like a single action army of theirs, right? Yeah, it would be fine. That'd be perfectly fine. I mean, those guns are actually proved.
Standard pressure. Look at the data. That's what I would say. Don't go loading anything without proven data. But IMR, what is it? 47, 4227. What is that powder? I can't remember now. Basically, Hank Jr. had a 20 grain load, which was decided to be about as hot as you wanted to go for actual Colt or a replica if smokeless. And that was with a 250 grain bullet. And he was getting it out there at like 1,100 feet per second, which is pretty good. Do your research is all I can say. Any book any reloading book will tell you whether you can or not. But 8 grains of unique is what I shoot. 9 grains is getting pretty hot probably. But yeah, all I can say is absolutely check your loading data first so you don't get in trouble.
That's a good answer.
By Landon Seas, and hey, Doc.
Hey.
Howdy, gents. Grizz's Garage said, I used to make flat springs made 10 to get 1. But I got better. Okay, here's a question. This is up for debate, but here we go. Which is better, 1860 Army, Uberti or Pieta? Go ahead. Snapper.
Okay, this will be my answer. Is the Pieta makes a better gun that's like hard into metal. But when it comes to authenticity and beauty and standards of like quality of build, I think Uberti makes a better gun. They're kind of best. They kind of complement each other in different ways. The Pieta it's not as authentic to the original gun, but they use a harder steel. They have harder screws. I like Uberti more, but they use a softer metal.
All right, so I've shot both extensively and originals. Snapper has too, actually. But here's my take on it. The Pieta actually shot better for me, but that could just be the Pieta that we were using. And the Uberti was better for taking full-size paper cartridges. The Pieta had some real issues because the Pietas are generally a lot tighter in the chambering. So, like it's a 4.54 is better for a Pieta, a 4.57, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Snapper. It's been a little bit. Is better for Ubertis. And original,
I shot 4 through the Ubertis, but the original is big.
You can, but here's the difference. It's hard to get a 4.57 in a Pieta.
Yeah,
because they're smaller. And you can get like a 4.59 in an original.
Yeah, they're pretty easily. Yeah, they're quite a bit easier. I don't know about you, but it's one of those things where you're like, wow, these. I don't know if this loading lever just works way better than the replicas do, but yeah, it's so much easier to load an original.
Like
just load because they're bigger.
Go buy your Johnson & Dow bullet mold from Era's Gone. You're going to have a hard time seating that bullet in a Pieta. I know some people that say, it's no big deal, but I have one of every Colt cap and ball revolver. Basically, we have one original, except for, of course, the Dragoon. Like you have the Dragoon. Don't have a Walker or a Patterson original.
Right.
But all the other ones, we have originals, Pietas, and Ubertis. Originals, that bullet works like butter. Ubertis, a little bit of pressure. I've bent Pieta loading rods trying to load.
I have to.
The Spiller and Burr trying to load original size bullets in them. That being said, Pieta makes a great gun. I don't know, though, if the hardness of the gun in all reality, outside of maybe springs and stuff, I don't know if the hardness of the gun makes that much of a difference. I've thought about it a lot.
Truthfully, at the end of the day, it doesn't.
Yeah, with Uberti, you're getting all the stuff under the loading lever. Pieta shot better for me. It usually does, honestly, and I don't know why that is, but maybe it's because we're putting such a oversized bullet in there. But I don't know. That's just my take on it. I like all of them. Of course, the original, hands down, is usually always the best, even an old beat-up original. Uberti usually comes in second and Pieta in third. But like I said, it depends. You want a shooter, you can go out there and tinker with and just make it shoot tight groups all day. Pieta is probably the way I would go. But if you want to actually do some reenacting or something like that, definitely go Uberti.
Yeah. I would say it's a good case. Uberti's also, they don't put that, like use black powder only on the side of the frame. No, that's a lot to a lot of people.
I don't know why Pieta doesn't just do that.
I don't either.
Just move.
I don't either. And then, Pieta, I don't know what happened with Pieta over this whole, it makes sense over the whole, COVID crap, everybody shutting down. But the guns that I've seen from Pieta that are new guns, man, they're bad. Like, they're bad. They took a really hard turn. The grips weren't even close to fitted. The stamps weren't straight, or they were double stamped. Parts that just weren't fitted properly or redone properly or even blued properly. It's pretty bad.
Don't they come with plastic grips now?
They do, and they're ugly. They're
Yeah,
ugly.
that's kind of what I thought. I don't know why they're doing that, but the thing I kind of quit buying from anywhere but Cimarron. I guess I kind of had a good relationship with them, and I've had some problems with some of their guns, but used to buy them from Cabela's, and I won't do that anymore because now they card you even though they don't have to for a cap and ball revolver. So it's
Yeah,
like I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah,
I've always known
so
Cimarron always usually they take more pride in what they get. So before they send it out, I mean, it's still possible to get a problem, but it's just less likely with Cimarron, and they'll back up their gun.
generally you're going to get a lot better fit and finish, honestly, from them. But I have had issues with short arbors from them, just like everybody else. But they will fix it usually, take it back and give you one that works. But it's everywhere. Italian guns, as I go further in my gun collecting over even the past few years, I've just really started to see how far down Italian guns actually. We know you never think about it when you first buy them. You're like, oh, these are the greatest things, and everything. Then you get your hands on some originals, or you get your hands on even some older Italians that were like higher end stuff, or guns that have been worked over by a gunsmith, or something from there.
Yeah,
And you realize just kind of how bad the Italian guns are coming out a lot of times. And it's
yeah.
Colts and Remingtons. I've had
You
Remingtons
should look at
usually.
them like a. You got.
Yeah, I was just
You
say
should look
I've
at them
had.
like a kit gun.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it, and it's kind of sad, but it works both ways. I got two Remingtons actually from both of them were Piettas, and it was like two shots in. No matter how much you greased it, it was bound because the
Mm.
cylinder gap was too tight, which was really weird for them. And you can fix that, but there's a lot of other issues. I've had timing issues. Seems like the Pietta or Remington springs just don't last. I don't know.
No.
And not talking about
I
losing
broke
their
out
tension.
so many
Break
trigger
them.
or bolt springs. Bolt springs to
Yeah,
me on
bolt
Italian
springs.
guns are what I break all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the
So,
thing, guys, too, is look at them as a project gun, and don't be scared to work on them. That's why they're cheap.
mm-hmm.
Learn how to time a gun with them. Don't be scared of it. It ain't gonna hurt you. Uh, you might be able to learn some really cool knowledge that you otherwise wouldn't know, and it would make you less fearful of jumping into a bigger project on, say, an original. Because you could find originals that are need timing or something for really cheap, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
I always go. If I can find one that has something wrong with it, that's what I jump after. Because to me, that's the best of everything. Because I want to go through the gun anyways.
Yep.
And if it's got some small problem and I can get a massive discount off of it, that is the best of both worlds.
Yep.
So
It's like
learn to work on them. They're not hard.
Plowboy when we were discussing those Rugers, because the Rugers always come with tight cylinder on 45s. Blackhawks tend to come with tight cylinder throats because people shoot a jacketed bullet mostly, and jacketed bullets are 4.51. It's pretty good, but when you're shooting cast, it's swaging it down in that throat, and by the time it gets to the barrel, it's too small. So Plowboy was like, well, we can spend a lot of money on renting a reamer or buy a reamer, or we can take a 12 gauge cleaning shotgun rod with some emery cloth on it and just go slow. And we both did it. We both got pretty good results. So
if it works, it works. I mean, and the thing too is if you've ever actually had to ream out of the barrel on one of those, like the actual forcing cone, I mean, all it is a tool that looks like a cleaning rod. It has a reamer into it that's whatever angle you want, and you're just pulling it straight out and turning it. Not hard to make either. And if you made sure you cut that with like a piece of wood, as long as that angle is correct, you can put sandpaper on it and work just fine.
Yep,
just fine.
Mill Creek Rain said, "Hi everyone, just feeding my face and watching the show. Lots going on right now. Well, hi Benji. Need to catch up on some of your videos too." Okay, Hardy says, this looks like one that we need Duke for. He'll be here hopefully in a little bit. Hardy says, sorry to go off topic, but I'm reading a book called Plains Rifle. Has some pictures of original short starters and rifle cappers. Both things that most people say weren't used. Oh, I absolutely know the cappers were used because Tom Tobin used a capper. Militarily, we've discussed. We don't know for sure if they were used in the military, but it seems like it would make sense for like Colt revolvers. But I absolutely know that Tom Tobin had a piece of leather. I believe it was maybe a piece of rawhide that had little slots cut in it then were hardened to hold those caps, and it was a little 8-piece deal that hung around his neck, and he would cap that rifle. And that's how he killed the Espinosa brothers so fast, supposedly. Short starters, yeah, there's some. You don't hear about them a lot because people tended to make them themselves, I think. They don't really show up in... they don't really show up a lot, as far as I know, in inventories, store ledgers, things. But that's because people were making them themselves. And a lot of rifles were coned, so they didn't need them. But yes, I'm absolutely sure. You know, these people weren't dumb. You know, it's not that big of a jump. We've talked about this before, especially about like speed loaders. It's like it's such a hard thing to believe that people that invented the revolver couldn't have came up with the idea of a speed loader. And then you actually see that they did.
And then you find one. Yeah. Yep. And the thing was, too, is a lot of people, like, say it's like a short starter. Like, today, it's something you would probably go and buy. But back then, if you had the parts lying around and everything was money, like even today, but money was harder to get back then. Mm-hmm. It would have been to those people like, why would I waste the money if I can just go carve it out and, 20 minutes next to the fire when I got nothing else to do anyway.
Yep. And not only that, but short starters are going to break fairly commonly. So you're going to, I've used a lot of times, I've just had a piece of deer antler with me that wasn't even a short starter. And I've used that as a short starter. Take the base of it and beat it down and then take the prong and use it to start with. I have done that. I
see a lot of those people being we'll make it myself instead of buy it kind of people.
Doug Duke said, where is Duke? Duke is still at work. He might be jumping on here at the end. We kind of just put it on his channel so he could get some views too. But he should be here directly. Gots Loco said, aluminum age hardens. I don't recall any steel that age hardens.
Yes. Yeah. Aluminum has a galvanic corrosion problem that creates a harder outer skin that creeps through the entire thing over time, yes.
Turkey Creek wanted to know, Hardy, who is the author? Yes, you should probably tell Turkey Creek because he could tell you if that gun's really good or that book's really good or not because he's pretty well studied up on that Plains rifle. American said, never tried to make a spring. Can usually buy them pretty cheap.
It's not that hard. It's really not.
You don't have to start making them until you start getting into guns that are originals and they just don't exist for them anymore.
Well, I mean, there's also times that I've just personally, I used to just buy like replica springs, but lately, man, you can't find a replica spring that's the same thickness as an original. I used to just stick like 2 Ubertis or whatnot down there and just call it a day. But now lately I've been like, you know what, I'm just going to buy spring stock of a certain thickness. I forget exactly what I use, but I just matched it to whatever thickness was the original gun. And then I'll just make a bunch of flat springs and hard them and make them myself so that I actually have the proper tension, because be amazed how much better these guns shoot with a really heavy hammer spring.
Mm-hmm. Grizz's Garage said if you were out hunting, the gun would get wet. Are you referring to when we're talking about the over the fireplace deal? Yeah, but that's not the kind of moisture you want. I'm sure you know that. Hardy said, if Charles E. Hanson Jr. Oh, yes. I like those books. I'm kind of a fan of the Hawk and Rifle and its place in history, but as Turkey Creek will probably point out to you, I believe it's Bob Woodfill has the more modern take on it. But yeah, I do love those Charles E. Hanson Jr. books. I quote them quite a bit. AR American said, good night, guys. Got to get up early in the morning. I was just going to say about the making springs thing. You could probably make a killing if you could figure out how to make a proper trigger return spring for a 77 Lightning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. And it's a simple spring. Very simple spring, too.
It is, but nobody makes... I mean, you might get one right, and then have you noticed that you might have to order 3 to get the right one?
Yep.
I don't...
Believe it or not, that one, the bolt spring and the sear spring on the 77, I've never, ever, ever been able to buy a modern replacement and it actually fit. I've always had to modify it.
I have never seen a record of them changing it during production either. So it's not like there's 2 different versions. It's just hard to get the right thing.
And it looks like it. It looks just like it. But you stick it in the gun and it will not function no matter what you do. And I've tried everything.
If it was too long, and you could say shave it off a little. That'd be one thing, but they're always too small.
They're always. I think that the problem is they're always too short. Now I've even tried like straightening them back out and then rebending them and then retempering them, and I still could never get them to work. I actually started putting the gun together differently. Instead of having that sear spring pop down into that notch, I let the sear spring fall over top of it, and it actually works perfectly.
I think that's what Caleb wound up doing too.
It works perfectly. It gives you the right amount of everything. Even the clicks are louder for your sear clicks. And I've just left it like that, and I've never had a problem. And I've ran that action at least over 1,000 times and never had an issue with it. So
I wonder if that's what Lodgewood intends for you to do.
Maybe because it fits that way, but it does not fit the way it's supposed to. It's not right. I always thought it would be a neat thing, like a lot of the modern single actions or stuff people did in the day where they'd put your hammer or your hand spring. They would replace it with like a round ball with the little coiled spring and stuff like drilling through the frame to do it, like how like you birdies do it. I always thought if you could do that with a 77, and that would make it a fabulous gun. You would have to do a few of them, but if you did that, you would break all, like you would lose all the abilities of the springs of breaking, and it would work perfect. But you have to modify one, and that's kind of something I'm not into. Drilling into an original gun, just changing out springs. I'd just rather buy a spring.
Yep. Ed Hen said, is that the Garrett 01 us that I know-ish and love? I don't think so. He said, I don't know how I'm subbed to this channel, but from the looks of it, it's my style. So howdy. Well, howdy. Welcome. I don't know that this is probably not the Garrett you're looking for, but I'm glad to have you on board here. Let's see. Where did we go? Let's see. Ungrateful Peasant said, good night, AR. Going to hit the hay, too. Looks of it. Autocorrect. Okay, got you, Ed. Gris's Garage said, I found an old 45 caliber UCAR, I call them junker, barrel, and I'm converting to flintlock with an LNR replacement lock. What's funny about those old UCAR barrels? The guns themselves with the split stocks are not that well loved, but I've run into people that swear by that UCAR 45 caliber barrel. I mean, I haven't had the best of luck with it, but that could just be me too. I have people that would actually take those and put them on full-scale new rebuild guns because they like that soft Spanish barrel. I'll be completely honest with you. In my youth, I have blown one of those barrels up. So that might be why I'm not too fond of them. But, yeah, they're good guns for the money. I think it's been like $60, $70 on one nowadays. Get you a full-scale plain-style rifle. And they're actually not the big, blocky, Hawken-looking thing. They're actually thin, full-stocked a lot of times. So they actually look like an original plains rifle, just has a piece of brass in the middle of it. So they're definitely not bad for the money. Okay. So the gold dot 250. See, I haven't shot any of those kind of bullets, but single action army, yes, 250 gold dot is a bullet, but it's a do not reduce load. Yeah, you don't want to go under usually on a lot of them if you're using the depends on the powder you're using. But I used 8 grains of unique. I don't know if you want to go over that because I haven't looked at the data in a long time. I would definitely follow the data, wouldn't you say so, Snapper?
Yep. I'm the kind of person who's gotten into when it comes to 45 Colt, I like black powder.
Yeah.
I haven't shot smokeless in so long just because I like black powder.
I was too, and then Plowboy made a heretic.
I know, and now you're pushing me in that direction. You guys are not there. The kind of numbers you got out of that freaking thing is impressive.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I need a freaking Ruger.
Kind of sores on my hand right there in there, and on the back. Those are impressive.
I'm not gonna lie. I haven't shot a high recoil, special single action style pistol ever. Like really hard recoiling, and I want to. I just want to. I love that setup so much that I don't care if it bites me.
A lot of other people are doing it in Bisley grip frames, and that Bisley grip frame does a lot better of not letting that thing roll up and hit you.
That's what
But
I saw you guys talking about with Jake the other day.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm jealous. Now I got to go out and buy a freaking Ruger.
yeah.
Thanks again,
um,
Plowboy. Look what you've done.
yeah, he's been guilty of making people buy guns before. I know that
Yeah,
much just by
there's
talking
several
about
people
him.
I know that had to buy bought things just because of old Plowboy.
Yeah. Let's see. Sleepy Leap said, "Hey guys, a little late, but I'm here. Oh, good." Reverend Hodge talking about Duke said to Doug Dukes, "Look in a mirror and say his name 3 times, and Duke will appear." Yes, he will. Especially this time of year. I don't know. I said his name for about 3 days and he didn't appear. He had me worried. He's been busy. Okay, RJ's guns and stuff. Random question: had any experience with Royal Tiger reports?
Oh,
Yes. I don't know. Snapper, have you?
I personally have not. No, but I know you guys have.
Mm-hmm. And it's been such a while ago, I can't remember all the details. I don't want to bash anybody necessarily, but it was not that great of an experience. It was payment up front for us, wait for an extremely long time until they just basically forgot about us, wouldn't answer phone calls or emails. And then they were like, "Oh, well, it's been so long, we'll let you have hand select." And so we got a good one, and the one they finally shipped was just shot. I mean, it was terrible. It wasn't the one, and never answered the phone again. We quit trying after a couple days. Like I said, I hate to bash anybody, but that was just our experience. And so we kept it. It was a Carcano from Ethiopia, I believe. And that was our last experience with them. And I hate to bash anybody, but that's just kind of how that went. Maybe that's just a one-off thing. I don't know, but I probably won't do it myself again. So,
Well, I mean, we like doing that here on this channel. At least let people know, hey, what to expect.
yeah.
If it is a one-off thing, then other people should be able to say, hey, no, we've had really good luck with them. If not, I'm sure you'll hear it in the audience, in the comments.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Shashula said, Uberti has a better fit and finish. Pieta shoots better and more durable. If you like the function over form, get Pieta. By the way, Pieta Remington is closer to design to the original. Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I honestly, I've only got the original. Well, no, I have that replica. Yours, I got to finish it. But
you have mine.
The original's yours too. So
yeah,
your original, your replica.
That should be a video
replica.
You should do too, because that's actually an older Pieta, and I know it's been done a couple times, but you should go ahead and do a video where you actually weigh like the individual parts and stuff. That would be kind of cool.
I could do that. I could do that. It'd actually be kind of nice to know.
Yeah,
I know that the Pieta parts, because that original replica, or the original Remington was missing most of its parts. It was a frame with a loading lever. But we basically, I have a good one I can use to pull in to do some good pictures for, or good measurements for. I don't have it with me, but I've got friends who's got it close by that would, I'm sure, not matter to let me take care of and play with. I had a real pretty one. I wish I'd have kept it.
Okay.
Oh, well.
All right. So this is something we talk about a lot from Sleepy Leap, and Snapper's actually helped me with mine. How do you feel about the short Colt Arbor issue with Uberti? Doesn't seem hard to fix, taking your time with washers. How big of a problem is it in the first place? Okay, before I let Snapper go, because he's got a lot to say on this. I've only had one, and Snapper showed me how to fix it by removing the pins from the front of the frame and just shortening the front of the frame and the forcing cone a little bit. And that worked for me by just very easily just taking a very little bit off the front of the frame in front of the forcing cone. That way you're not getting bound up back onto your cylinder, and that worked for me. But go ahead, Snapper. You got any thoughts on the short arbors?
Yeah, that is my preferred way of fixing it, is the bottom of the frame. You'll see your 2 pins that your barrel will click in. Take those 2 pins out. They slide out. They'll pull out. They're pressed in. And then sit there with a file. Take a couple licks, stick it back together. Take a couple licks, stick it back together until you fix that arbor problem. You're not going to take that much off. It's not a big deal. And the whole idea is being able to drive that as tight as you want without it binding the cylinder up. If you're still binding that cylinder up when you're driving that wedge in, that means the that arbor's still too short.
You're
And
angling.
there's also other ways of fixing it that I've done before. One is you can even drill the end of the arbor itself. You can tap that and then stick a screw in it. So you can then change the length of the arbor to shorter. Like you can shorten it and then pull it out longer to make it fit where you want it to be. Um, I've done that on originals before. That used to be a really common fix, but I don't do it now just because I don't like. It's easier just to
Believe it or
do
not,
little things.
on like the first run of 1860s, 1861 production, there was actually a short arbor issue at Colt for a very few. They wrote about it and they had to bring them back and fix them. So you don't find them today because they were sent back in and repaired. But yeah, it's a thing. It's been a thing for a long time. Go ahead. Sorry.
And yeah, you could even put like a washer in it if you wanted to. I've even used a long time ago. I even tried JB Weld to stick a little tiny bit on there and boop, so it got the right length. That works too. It's all of what you're up to. I would say the proper way to fix it, to properly, like if you were pretending to wear it was like a real gun and you want to do it right, pull those bottom pins and just file it so you get it to fit perfectly. You'll be happy.
Yep.
And then with the washers, it can fall out. Any other stuff, it could move around. This is a surefire, solid fix where you don't have to worry about it anymore once it's fixed. And a little bit of cold blue, never know it was even done.
Yeah. Shot Shula said, well, I only shoot paper cartridges and all of them need to be open for paper cartridges. That is true on certain years. But if you go back through where I was shooting paper cartridges in the 1860 Army video, I believe, had a brand new Uberti 1860 Army out there. And I didn't have to touch it. And it worked just fine. I know a lot of Piettas, you absolutely do. Maybe it's just the one I got lucky, but I didn't have to open that one up for paper cartridges at all. And maybe that was on actually no, maybe that was on the 61 Navy, I believe, actually. Yeah, the 61 Navy video. I think it was the 61 Navy I didn't have to open up at all. Well,
I would say if you're going to shoot them, might as well open them up. If you want to put, might as well, because there's so much more fun with cards, like actually with paper cartridges, like and conicals. If you're that kind of person, it's fun to be able to do all of that. And it makes the gun look more original. The originals had a larger opening.
Yeah. Desert Rat 45 was talking about Pietta Springs, said good gun, but springs break all the time. Yeah, especially that trigger and bolt spring. Louisiana Gray said, I have to open up the throats of my cylinder to get the paper cartridges in. Yeah, you might have to, especially on a Pietta. Just make sure you still get a little bit of lead off there. The difference,
especially if you're running those. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say the difference between originals and this and the ones now, the reasons the originals can open up so much is because the bottom of the chamber is coned. So as you push the bullet in, it swages down tighter. Replicas don't do that. It's straight down all the way to the bottom. So if you don't have a tight enough bullet to start with, it's not going to get any tighter, and you could get a chain fire past it unless you're greasing over the top. But that originals have a cone chamber at the base, so the farther you get it in, the tighter it gets, and it works pretty good.
I'm curious why the replicas never did that. You think it's a safety thing? Because I've never really had a chain fire on an original gun thinking about it ever.
It wasn't done for chain fires. It was done to give you more meat between the cylinder notch, and the inside of the chamber. But honestly, it's probably a lot more expensive because Colt was hesitant to do it till he had to. I mean, you would think unless you drill tapered. So I'm not sure how all that works. I don't work on. I'm not engineer stuff like you, but how would you drill a tapered hole?
With like a reamer. Or you can set it up to be either offset on like a lathe.
So it should be just as easy as drilling a straight hole.
Yes. Or they even make tapered reamers or tapered drill. Like you'd have a normal drill bit, but then you would run a reamer right behind it. It's just tapered. It'll be whatever taper it is, ever so slight, and it would just go in and come out. Super simple.
Here's my next question for those companies. Obviously, they should be keeping all their scrap drilling steel, right? And they're remelting it or sending it to someone to remelt. I wonder if it costs any more to leave that much steel in the gun. Makes the gun heavier, obviously. That's when you and I talk about This feels like a real Colt in your hand. This Pieta Uberti doesn't feel like a real Colt in your hand.
Right.
A lot of that's that tapered chamber and that much more iron in the cylinder.
Just a little bit more iron left in there, yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't think it would be all that much, but the probabilities of tiny numbers adding up over lots and lots of guns is not something I deal with. It could be a lot. It could be very little. I really don't know.
Let's face it. They've had that machinery since the 70s. And one thing that gun shops, old and new, don't like to do is change machinery.
No.
That's where it gets expensive. Let's see. Green said, yeah, I have the Pieta Lamat and the reproduction Lamat bullet. Mold bullets don't fit even with the press. Yeah. I think on the Richmond Labs 36, those cast out at 390, and it's not the mold that's doing it. The actual original patent calls for a 390. And what's funny is that bullet won't fit in Snapper's original Griswold and Gunnison.
Nope. It happens, but you're gonna. It's way. I think it's too hard, but it doesn't seem to be that hard either. Yeah. To me, I'm thinking that what happened in those situations when they were making bullets is they're using guns that are new and some that are completely worn out. So they wanted to ball a bullet big enough that it will work no matter what. I don't care if you have to push a little bit harder to get in the chamber, as long as you're not getting like misfires, and this can actually work on all the guns. So I have a feeling they might have made him a little too big on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them doing that. I don't know though, but it would make sense to me that they would do something like that.
Yeah.
When they're running out of guns too.
Here's a good question for you from Sleepy Leap. Said, regarding metal, is it concerning how much the end of my hand is burred on my Uberti 1858? I noticed that too. And go ahead. You got any ideas?
No, explain that to me. It's not making sense to me.
Okay, so he's getting burrs on the end of a hand on the 1858. And this is what I found out. Uberti's internal parts are softer than Pietas. And when you're getting a burr on there, that might mean you're a little out of time or something, and it's having to push too hard, and it's pushing that metal out and burring it.
Okay. Yeah.
It gets hung up a little bit, going in and out of the slot. But I don't know. Hands are cheap for the most part.
That is kind of interesting. It could be that when you're locking early, so you're always riding against that hand when you're full at your last bit of cough, and it just wore itself to shit. Yeah. But if you're still within time, and it's not giving any issues to the gun, file it down a little bit if you want, or to leave it might change the timing.
Uncle Chaw said, my 51 Navy shoots conicals a lot better than round balls. Might be a faster twist. Very well. Could be. I use 375 Lee conicals. They are undersized, but if you squeeze them hard enough, they stay down. I've actually had some stories on that. On the 49 pocket model, I had trouble finding round balls that would fit the one I had. Everybody was like, buy buckshot. Well, I bought the buckshot. It was a little too small. And so I would take it out there on the table and tap it with a rubber mallet so that it oblong, and then set them in there where make sure it was oval that way so I could cut a ring. And they actually shot pretty good, surprisingly, at about 10 feet. But I didn't shoot much further than that.
That's funny. Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, Sleepy Leap actually commented a little bit ago. He said, keeps good time and all, but yeesh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hardy said, I would almost bet Uberti has some sort of trademark copyright deal with hiding the modern markings. No reason for Pieta to put them on the side unless they don't want to change up tooling.
I don't think it's tooling either for Pieta. And the reason why I say this is the new ones they're laser engraved. So it wouldn't matter if it being on the side.
Haven't you been over there and seen where they make Ubertis?
No, I've never been there personally and seen them. Okay. I've seen the videos and stuff of the factories, but no, I know that they're laser engraved just by looking at it, seeing it's laser engraved. Okay, I know that the new cylinders on Ubertis as well, like the 51 Navy cylinders, they're laser engraved. They're no longer roll engraved. I think they're ugly, like really ugly. But but I've heard people say, "Oh, it looks so much better to them." It has a way less detail, and it has that perfectness of laser engraving that just doesn't look natural.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a big reason why I haven't I don't own any U birdies. It's just
Mhm.
because yeah. Now if you didn't care about the markings or you didn't care about like if you wanted to antique the gun, you didn't care. I guess it wouldn't matter if it's a Pieta. Just remove it. It'd be easier to remove.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know why they would never do that. It'd be so simple to do, unless that's the only way they can tell their guns from the Uverdes. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense either. They might have something. I don't know.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen,
Duke.
all the way from the foothills of Fort Laramie, Duke Frazier. Yay!
I'm here.
You made it.
I made it.
We're just talking the age-old debate: Pieta versus Uberti.
Well, if you want a gun that runs, buy Pieta. If you want a gun that looks beautiful, buy Uberti.
Seems to be the
That's
consensus.
been the consensus. That's been the consensus. Yep.
Yep. A Gray Pilgrim is in. Says, "Hey."
Hey.
Said I bought a Griswold that had awful plastic grips.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of the Pieta's gone to that.
I don't know what they were thinking with those scripts. They're just
saving
disgusting.
money.
Yeah, I know. I guess they figured a lot of people will replace the grips anyways. So why not?
I'll tell you one thing
that
Pieta's gone to with the 73 single action armies, and that's something that everybody should be kind of concerned on, is they're not cutting forcing cones.
Really?
At the barrel, yeah. A buddy of mine just bought one, and he had to take it to a gunsmith and have the forcing cone cut.
Is it a little too tight of the chain?
No, they just cutting the barrel off at the back and screwing it into the frame.
So it had zero forcing cone whatsoever.
Yeah, and he said he looked at another brand new one at a store, and he said it was the exact same way.
Ha! That's
wow. Bad. That would be bad. That's a lot of lead shaving throwing out.
Yeah.
One of these days,
pressures and everything.
The only one I can think like that originally was the Patterson, and they didn't stay that way for very long.
No.
They fixed themselves.
One of these days, some American company with a CNC machine is going to come up with a way to make a cheap or a reproduction of cost-efficient reproduction of those guns, and the Italians are not going to know what hit them because they have been slacking.
There is a company doing that, but they're using high-end tool steel, so the gun's still very expensive.
That's the trouble.
Yeah. It would be neat if they decided to just buy a couple of machines, let them run, and make extremely high-quality replicas at an affordable price. Everybody would buy. I would buy everything if they did that. Or I wish I would convince Colt to find somebody to do that, and then just do another not the Signature Series style again, but another Colt series. Man, I'd love to be able to go to the store and buy a brand new Colt cap and ball gun.
Mm-hmm. Gray Pilgrim said, have a Remington made by Navy Arms, an unmarked Uberti. I'm going to kind of go through here, guys, and get caught up. I'm just looking for questions. I'm reading all your comments. But, yeah, Byland and Sig said he likes to order from Taylor's or the Possible shop.
Ow.
You okay there, Duke?
Bit my lip.
Oh. Okay, yeah, so Duke, Hardy was talking about he was reading in the Hansen book, but I don't think it was... What's the other Hansen? Is there another Hansen book on plains rifles that's not the Hawken book?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, he was talking about pictures of original capping tools, and he's seen some pictures of some short starters in there, and he was surprised because he didn't think that they were actually existed. You got any thoughts on that?
Very rare, but there were some out there.
Well, we know Tom Tobin had a homemade capper out of rawhide, I believe it was.
Yeah, leather. Yep.
Yeah, and he could shoot pretty fast, from what I understand.
Yeah, it was a round disc of leather with holes punched in it, and you just shove the caps in that.
Yeah.
Problem is, your caps are exposed to moisture.
Yeah. But that's what I was telling Snapper. I was like, those people weren't completely dumb. They could come up with these ideas if they had to,
Yep.
Okay, and...
Oh, by the way, when it comes to cappers, have you guys tried the new capper by Guns of the West, the new 12 one?
I mean, that's
Oh, it's
basically the
nice.
same idea as that leather disc. But
Yeah,
yeah,
basically. I freaking love that thing. He sent me one when he gets sent back my pocket 80, a set of them. Man, they're nice. They fit on all the guns easily. Like
yeah.
I
No, I've
like
seen it
these.
in
I've
the
always
video. I
liked this
thought that was
product,
pretty
but
ingenious.
Yeah.
this thing is probably one of the best cappers I've ever used ever. It kind of put my snail capper to bed. Probably never going to pull that thing out again. That's how
Me
good
and
these
my
these new
snail
ones are.
capper got into an argument, and I haven't used it since.
I've been on that same area. Me and I, we've had this love hate relationship.
The only thing it really works on is my walker.
Yeah. I've never really had one for cap and ball revolvers, but I have gotten into the habit of having a straight line capper for cap lock rifles. That's kind of handy. They don't work too good on cap and ball revolvers, though.
No, but I'm telling you that new 12 one he's got, that thing is worth every cent.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Gray Pilgrim said that every 49 pocket model he's had has had trouble. Just ask Snapper. I sent him my first. The arbor was cracked.
Yep. You know what? This actually should be a lesson for people as well. The gun he sent to me, the arbor was cracked on it, and the whole idea was just going to be take the arbor out and replace the arbor. Well, when I got in there, it looked, because somebody had cleaned it up really, really well with files and stuff. I could never find the pin, and then I realized it was welded. Like, took a very long time, way longer than it should have for me to realize it was welded, because I just didn't give up on the fact that it was just not screwed in until I got to the point where I was actually looking where the thread should be, and they're all melted. And what happened was, is that once they welded that, it would have probably had a loose arbor. They would have stuck the barrel on and then welded the back of it. And what ends up happening is, if you don't get that perfectly straight, it's going to break something, and it ends up breaking the arbor in this case. And now the gun is pretty much scrap. Like, there's not much you can really do with it without having to completely drill that whole arbor out. And being that it's welded, it's not centered. So to recenter everything perfectly, it's going to be a massive task that's almost impossible to do safely at the end of the day.
So probably cheaper to just get another one at that point. Huh?
Yeah, that's actually what we ended up having to do. I just told him that I'm going to pay for this one as parts, as a parts gun.
Yeah. Gray Pilgrim said, by the way, guys, my videos of late are not black powder, more milsurp, but I like to share history. Yeah, very good.
I love his channel, by the way. Gray Pilgrim's got a really good channel. Got some really cool guns.
Yeah. Shachula said, it's like the Patterson speed loader Colt used to sell. It turns out that it didn't work the way that the Walker loader flask didn't really work. They made things that weren't used. That is true.
Actually, that Patterson loader was pretty ingenious, but just
that 5 loader?
Yeah, the 5 spout. It's not that the reproductions out there have them spring loaded ones. I've got one that does all 5 at once. You have to have arms like Arnold Schwarzenegger to press all them down to get powder into the chambers. The single one works fine, and they did use a single one when they went to the Patterson with the loading lever on it, but the original one was a turn. So you put the 5 spouts in the or in the chambers, turn the whole thing, it'd charge them, take it out, and you turn it over, and then the back half of it held the balls, so you'd set that over it, turn it, it would set the 5 balls, and then you'd ram them down by hand. It was actually pretty useful and ingenious. The problem is you need to be sitting down to load it. You wasn't going to do that in the field with it.
Yeah. And if all your powder and all your balls are in that thing, it's going to be kind of hard to.
You're right. Now, the Walker flask, that one was useless. That's when they tried to go with that spring system again, and it never threw a full charge. And then by the time you put the rounds in there in a tube, you've taken up half of your powder capacity.
Yep. And what it only hold like 6 extra ones, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it only held 6 rounds and enough powder for 5.
So yeah, you only basically got 1 reload out of the entire kit, which would have been useless.
Yeah, but you know what? Colt was going to make them, or they were going to make them and sell them, because he had that worked out real well where he could sell accoutrements. That was the whole deal.
He was making some money on those. He was pretty upset when the Army, when they backed out of that. He was pretty mad.
Took a long time for him to back out of it. Some of that stuff was still being carried on in that contract into the Civil War.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was.
Well, it was $35 for a pistol. $10 of that was for the accoutrements.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the Army wouldn't even sign on those early Walker pistols because the accoutrements didn't come with them.
Well, that
$35 without the accoutrements.
35 with them. Yeah.
With them.
The thing was, he contracted to sell a flask with every Walker.
Yep.
And then and they signed it. And then after they signed this deal, they were like, wait a minute. We have 2 Walkers per man. A man doesn't need 2 flasks. And he was like, nope, you signed it. We're going with it.
Man, I never realized, it's been so long since I've done the research on the Walker. It's been so many. I didn't remember the Walker was $35. That's a lot of money.
Well, like you
the
said,
pistol
25.
itself was $25.
Oh, okay. That's kind of more around what you see.
But if that's $10,000 in I don't know how much is it in flasks. If you have one extra flask that you don't need in there, $10 and $10,000 in flasks.
Yeah,
want to spend.
That's a lot of money.
Back then, that was a lot of money.
Right. But the whole idea of the flask is the flask was supposed to hold exactly 1 pound of powder, which equals out to, I forget how many reloads. Just over 100 rounds.
Not that many if you're trying to cram 60. And all right, now here's the question. At what point do we go from that? Because they have round balls, but they obviously have... okay, I'm going to get this wrong because I always call it a picket bullet, but you call it a sugar loaf, I think, or vice versa.
No, the early one was the picket. The sugar loaf came out with the Dragoon.
So they never used a picket bullet in that Charger.
Because they'll only hold a round ball, right? Yeah.
So the bullet molds that came with that, they were supposed to every 25 pistols was supposed to have 1 gang mold of that threw 6 balls at once, and then every pair of pistols was supposed to have a single mold a mold that threw a single round ball and a conical, which was just a cone of lead. That's that early picket. And
that's when you run into issues, because that picket bullet, you're not going to get near as much powder in the chamber with that long, thin, what is it, a 210 grain bullet?
Right at 200, yeah. But the thing of it is, you couldn't get 60 grains in it loading it front ways, and that's why the gun was designed. It was supposed to be 50 grains all across the board, but they put the extra length in the cylinder so you can get that 50 grains and get that long conical bullet inside that chamber. The thing of it is, you turn that bullet around, well, now you can cram 60 grains into it, bullets backwards, and when it hits that forcing cone, the pressure goes up, and so that's going to cause, and then with the bad metallurgy to begin with, that's going to be a leading cause of burst cylinders. That's why Colt, when he got that Dragoon revolver, cut that cylinder back so that no matter what they did, they could not exceed 50 grain charge.
And I honestly wonder if the conical you were supposed to put 50 or 40 in. Maybe I'm wrong.
That was 50. That was the whole thing, because I remember reading it, and I know it's somewhere in that 47 book. I cannot find it in there. I've read it 3 times again. I can't find. I know I read it in there. That they talk about. Yeah, that was the reason for the extra length in that cylinder, is that both bullets would be able to fire that 50 grain charge.
And that is the question we are going to be asking until we get it all together. Is that bullet and 50 grains hotter, a 200 grain bullet and 50 grains of powder hotter than a 200, or more powerful than a 255 grain bullet and 40 grains of powder?
To be honest with you, I think, that 250 grain bullet is going to hit a heck of a lot harder. It's not going to have the velocity, but it's going to have the energy.
The real question, which one puts more foot-pounds down range is my question.
And that is really what determines which one's the more powerful.
I really need to get a chronograph from my. I really think you're dead on that. I think that they're going to be so close. I have a feeling the single action will outdo it though. The
If it doesn't, it's going to be a very close second.
It's going to be very close.
Here's the thing. Your primer is going to give you more pressure than the cap, too.
Yeah, that's true, too.
So,
but when they say that the Walker most powerful, too, I think they forget there's the 50 caliber Beaumont Adams.
Yeah.
So
you don't have
in reality,
have a long cylinder to get that much more powder if you got a 50 caliber hole.
If it doesn't beat the 45 Colt, or even for that, it doesn't beat the 45 ACP. If it doesn't beat that 45 Colt, that 40 grain charge, then in reality, it is the most powerful handgun issued to the United States military. Well, no, I'd take that back. It's the most powerful revolver issued to the United States military because a single shot Aston pistol's got to blow it out of the water.
Yeah, that you can put a lot more power in that.
Yep. All right, we have a comment here from Tactical Flintlock. He said, "Do you think it would be possible to convert a percussion rifle pistol into a breech loader using spring-drilled rifle trapdoor parts and mechanism?"
I mean, they did it in the 1800s.
Well, here's
what it was it not?
You would have to convert a 61, 63, or 64 Springfield.
Right.
And you might not even be able to convert a replica of it because the dimensions might not be the exact same.
Well, in reality, you could take a 4570 receiver, take an old muzzle-loaded barrel, cut the back of the barrel off, thread it down to where it goes inside that receiver. You've technically converted it at that point.
Yeah, if you're going to, but I think his question is it more like a pop-in thing. They always cut the. Well, with like a 4570, they didn't use an original barrel for a conversion. So when he says conversion,
Allen's, they just screwed that trapdoor on top of the old barrel and cut a chunk out of the barrel, sleeved it, chambered it.
Yeah.
So the question is, can it be done? Yes, anything can be done. It's just, is it viable to do it?
Yeah, and it has to be for the actual parts to work, unless you're planning on carving your own stock and everything, which even if you are going to have to do some stock carving. But if you wanted to do like with the 68, they had to sleeve the original barrel to get it down to 50. And one of the reasons they did that is because if they'd left it at 58, they might not have had enough at the time, the way they were doing it, enough meat to get it into that particular narrow receiver.
All right.
They had, but it wasn't enough. So part of the deal was sleeve the barrel. So we actually, even though we're doing it for 50, that actually helps us have enough to thread into the receiver. Later on in the 73 model, they would make a wider receiver, and that is how they eventually did the 1881 20 gauge with the original barrel. But that was because the receiver was wider at that point. So, there's ways you could do it, but it would be a chore.
Speaking of that, the Trapdoor series, any luck on when that date might be?
Oh, I'll keep on pushing it back. It's definitely going to be when we get back now. But I got it all. I've even got a chunk of it filmed, especially on the 66 and stuff. And actually, I slipped some of that footage that's in the series into next week's video. All I'm really waiting for is I have to have Ethan back, and I need some. Not really anything else. I wanted to get slings for all the rifles and the correct slings and everything. I haven't had that, but I may just let that go. But yeah, I'm going to plan on starting to work on it just as quick as I can finish getting everything together. Have everything I need to do it. Just need to do it.
So hopefully before Halloween.
I will try. Let's put it that way. We'll try one way or the other. I may not have the muzzleloader 61 in yet by then. If I don't, I may just go ahead and use the Remington Zouave rifle as an example. But it's about trapdoors. It's not about that muzzleloader. So
I really think you should start at the Charlottesville and work through the whole Springfield series.
My actual plan is to go from the Springfield post-Civil War forward, and then eventually come back and go from 1795 to the Springfield.
That'd be cool.
I just was more into the cartridge guns right now than the muzzle loaders.
You're like, I'm so fed up with the cap and ball stuff at the moment.
Well, it takes a lot of research. Like I'm a year into research almost at this point, and well, I really started right after Duke came, so I'm more like 7 or 8 months. But it's like it takes a long time to study, for that amount of guns.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Actually, knock on wood, we're going to film the opening for the 1866 next week.
Nice.
Or a week and a half from now. So, because I might have a special guest.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Hardy says, I got a Smith & Wesson pocket revolver that needs a trigger return spring. Have to push the trigger forward and mess with the cylinder after every shot. Ethan would know more about that than me. I haven't messed with the insides of that gun very much. I just know that the bolt for the cylinder stop is on the top of the frame.
Yeah, that's a weird. Those early Smith & Wessons.
Yeah. Yep.
What you know what you could try? Like I had to do this with that Remington pocket pistol I had. Is I would take the if you ever need a like you break a spring and need to make one, get the original one there and mark it out on paper. And then when you pull the paper completely out, you can see how long you need it to be. Hacksaw blades. Hacksaw blades make really good small, like flat springs and stuff for those little tiny guns. They're not too heavy, they're not too light. And I made every single spring inside that little Remington Iroquois, the trigger, the bolt, everything. And that trigger bolt spring was one of the hardest springs I ever had to make ever. But hacksaw blades make really good spring material to make that kind of stuff out of. Just draw it out so when you pull it out, you know how long you need to make it. Cut it that length and just start bending until it matches what it needs to do, and then get it fully red hot, dip it in oil, and then put it in some lead and quench it till you get to the blue color you're looking for, and you've got a spring.
Turkey Creek, going back to talking about the short starter, said rather than trouble with a short starter, I use the heel of my knife to push the ball down just past flush so I can cut my patch. Then the ramrod will usually take it down. And Gray Pilgrim is agreeing with him. I'm just kind of scrolling through here, guys, looking for questions. I'm reading what you say here, but Kodak Tackman said, I'm going to have to watch later, fellas. Internet connection is terrible. Y'all have a good night. Well, good evening. Yeah, Stephen M. Mann said it's all about how you hold it. Big boomers is a one-hand or deal breaker for an old mountain man. Okay, one-hand or deal. Franklin Horse said, my flintlock 45 takes 45 round balls, but my 44 caliber black powder takes 45 round balls. Regulations require 45 for the minimum caliber for deer. Yeah, I always thought that was funny how in rifles it's backwards to cap and ball pistols. Let's see. Sleepy Leap said, Garrett, your Blackhawk video reminded me of when I was a kid thinking of what the ultimate pistol would be. My highly scientific design efforts resulted in a single action chambered in 45 Magnum. That's exactly what it is.
I always love seeing 45 Colt be able to push hard like that. That was impressive.
That's a lot of foot pounds going down the range.
A lot of power.
1,106 foot pounds, I think.
I'll take pretty much anything I could think of.
Classic Guns Today said cylinder bind does not seem to be a symptom of my short arbor problem with my new 61 Navy Uberti. Barrel is loose and frequent misfires. Just got back after warranty repair. Problem relapsed. That sounds like you have too long of an arbor.
Yeah, actually, it sounds like you have too long of an arbor. Is the arbor loose at all? Like if you take the barrel off, can you wiggle that arbor in any way, shape, or form?
Either
it also
that,
could be that your
slots.
Yeah.
Your pin's wrong, or your slots are cut too far forward or back in the barrel, maybe. All right. I'm just slowing through here looking for questions and not seeing a lot there. Get caught up by Landon C. Said, well, gents, I know it's not normally part of the theme, but I finally came into a really nice Winchester model 1917 and just as pretty as a P14. Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
You know, those W's, they said, don't send us any more of those W's. They don't interchange with the Remingtons or the Eddie Stones. Oh, that's why they're kind of cool. I think they're a little more sought after now. That's what I've been saying. Let's see. Shot shoe. Oh, Task Force Tyler, before I get there, says, hi, Task Force. A Trantor or a Webley IRC repo would be cool. Yeah, but you can still get some originals at a pretty good price. Mill Creek Range said, got to catch you a flight to KC in the morning again. It's never done. One of these days, maybe I'll be up in that area and I'll catch you. Shot Shula asks, have you guys seen that Arsa is making a repro of the Adams revolver? I cannot wait. I think Duke pointed that out to me.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the 50 cal to come out.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, Turkey Creek sent me the picture of that text, and he said that was Plains Rifles by Charles E. Hanson Jr. is the name of that book. Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of looking for Classic Guns Day said the cappers that look like Chinese throwing stars. I have some brass capper somewhere that's about as long as my index finger, but caps tend to fall sideways in it, and it's kind of a pain. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Lagging Leland said, when is Walter White returning to the stream? We got to get him back pretty soon.
We got to get him back.
I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to get him back on here.
Now we got to talk him into doing a Walter White impression when he comes on.
Ooh.
Yeah, he hadn't been on here in a while. He's not one of the regular hosts. But he is one of our, I'd say he's one of our treasured friends, wouldn't you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Did a long time before we did.
Got to get him on here and say, Jesse, it's time to cook.
All right. Still looking for questions. Lagging Leland wants to know why you're wearing a mask, Snapper. I'll let you answer. He said COVID is gone.
Oh, very funny, Lagging Leland. Lagging Leland, lagging.
Some people get flat out mad that Snapper wears a mask.
I have my reasons. I hate wearing it. Everybody knows I hate wearing it. It's the kind of reasons that have good reasons.
He has reasons.
There's reasons, and I'm sorry, everybody. I don't have any special coolness to me. And most of this is protect you guys how ugly I am. You ask Garrett, he's seen me without the mask. He almost died once.
Yeah. I told him he needs to do the Zorro mask and make a S with a sword in all of his videos. He can have a whole character. He's on the opposite side of Antifa, if that's what you're wondering.
Yeah, definitely not on that side. I have the problem of military / a couple injuries. So being unidentifiable, especially with a hobby like such, is very important right now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people can read through that and gain as they will.
Besides that, he just doesn't have a glorious beard as the rest of us.
That too. I don't have a nice beard. and I'm just butt ugly. I mean, I am butt ugly.
Oh. Okay, so Soylent Green said, Air is gone. Bullet Molds has a 50 cal Dragoon Army San Marco made in small numbers a while back. Takes 490 round ball. Fantasy gun, but neat. He did a video on it a couple years ago. I remember that.
I remember that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't seen any videos from him in a while.
Okay, so as far as pistols go, by Landon C said the 1867 Remington rolling block pistol in 50-45 400 was believed to be moving that piece of lead at 1050. Might be a more powerful military pistol cartridge. Might be the most powerful, I think is what he's saying. That is possible. That's a 400 grain is that a 400 grain bullet, isn't it? I'm not too studied up on that pistol.
Basically, the version of the 40 or the 50-70.
That's like
What we might need to change the stipulations of this is the only guns that are allowed in this competition have to start with a C. Just so Remington can't win this.
Yeah, Remington can't win this competition.
Sorry, you're just not allowed.
Well,
Wrong name.
There is a trapdoor pistol too. A Springfield trapdoor pistol made in 1869 in 50 caliber, and they were going to use it like a shotgun. And it was all. I think it was Sheridan's idea. It's like, this is going to be the cavalry's going to ride up with this thing. It's going to be like a short barrel shotgun with 3 round balls. And they made 2 of them. They couldn't reach the hammer.
The Colt pistol that was the rifle that somebody had turned into a pistol.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the 55. It's not a root pistol. It's a, what do they call that, Duke? It's the root revolving rifle, but somebody cut it into a pistol.
Really early Colt revolving rifles. Somebody turned one into a pistol.
Yeah, well, I know I've seen one that was a Patterson that was converted.
Yeah, this was a full scale. Actually, I think it was the shotgun.
I think it was too. If I remember right.
And somebody had cut it down into this Dragoon pistol. And Colt actually
right next to a Walker.
Colt made a couple prototypes in 45 of the root that were been huge, and they didn't use them because they were too heavy.
God, I found a picture of the Colt prototype, which would have been the number. Because see, they went to number 1, number 2, number 3, skipped number 4, went to number 5. Would have been the number 4 pistol, the Patterson. That was a 58 caliber 9-shot pistol. It would have been twice as big as a Walker.
Yep, it's back. I think that's back there in that book.
Yeah.
Laggy Leland must be talking to the task force because he said, "Imagine knocking over Samuel Colt's son's gun."
Oh God.
Yeah. That's good. Classic Guns Today said that his base pin was not loose. He said, when I slide the barrel onto the arbor turned at an angle, the arbor will go in slightly farther than it should, indicating short arbor from what I understand.
Yeah, it means it's probably about a couple thousandths off on where they cut the wedge slot.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And there's just enough cut to it to
that or the arbor's bent.
I've been through a couple of short arbor issues, and they always bind the cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But usually when you get that tight, you'll bind up.
Other thing it could be, too, is that the notch in your hammer that goes in that recoil shield, so down on the inside curve, that might have a little too much meat, which would cause a misfire because it's not going far enough forward to hit the nipples. The quick way to tell if that's the case, back the nipples out quarter of a turn, and if they start going off, then it's blocking it.
Also, your
back in
your arbor pin, or not your arbor, but your actual wedge. Make sure your wedge is actually hardened and it's not soft and turning in like to potato chips.
Yeah, that too.
Classic Guns Today said, I just assumed the mask was Snapper's trademark iconic image. That or he is Cobra Commander.
Both, actually. Both. It's been a secret my whole life that I've been the most evilest man on the planet.
Well, the reality is he's just a joker and doesn't want to show off his beautiful grin.
That is true. All the way up to here.
Okay, so Carl Henning said, 11 Bang Bang, what is your opinion on the Remington Lee rifle model of 79, by the way? Sorry, I meant Winchester Hotchkiss. I don't have an opinion on it because I've never had one. But if you look through this comment section and you go to, I believe, if you talk to Doc by Land and Sea over there, he might have something for you. Oh, yep, he already did. He already commented. He said, Carl Henning, that rifle was way ahead of its time a lot. The 1885 revolutionized small arms in one way or another for most of the 20th century. And how about yeah, he's the guy you got to talk to, guys. He has a channel. I think he still only has one video up, but that he's got a lot of knowledge on those later, especially like bolt action rifles and stuff. Lagging Leland has a question for us. He said, favorite guns from y'all's collection? Well, Snapper, why don't you go, and then Duke, and then I'll finish.
I would say it's still my 82 single action.
I was gonna say this isn't gonna be hard for you.
No, that's still my beloved. You know what's crazy? I sent the other one out, the new one I got, the 88, the 80 one, to special guest. I've mentioned it before, I guess, but he's going to do a review on it. And I sent out like 2 days ago. Yeah, I already missed that gun. I really missed that gun a lot.
Walter White's got your gun.
No, not Walter White this time.
No, not Walter White. No,
not Walter White. He lives in Arizona, though.
Oh.
Oh.
I with a sin and end with a T.
So, what do you think, Duke? What's your favorite gun in your collection?
Oh. Well, actually, probably my 97 Winchester right now. It's either that or my Uberti Patterson.
I thought you were going to say your Henry.
Well, it's third.
Oh, third.
But
97's hard to beat.
Yeah, no, I love that gun. God, I keep it around all the time. So yeah, that's probably, I don't know. I like them all. There's only a couple that's like, all my Pieta 1860, like, it's not my favorite one. Of course, now after I got it running, it actually runs pretty good. But yeah, I'd have to say is my 97s. Well, my 16 gauge 97 is pretty nice too if I could get it to work.
I have a hard time. I want to say my Kibler Southern Mountain Rifle, but I'm really into that cut down Bannerman 1866 5070 trapdoor that I got now because it just shoots and it's handy. But it's always changing for me. My 72 open top, of course, is always going to be my favorite pistol probably, but it's always changing. One moment it might even be that CVA mountain rifle up there, but at the moment it's definitely that cut down 66 Bannerman. I shot it quite a bit here in the last couple months.
I have those moments as well. There's some guns that I'm just like, man, I love this gun. Like more common than others, and it kind of rotates around.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say my favorite cap and ball is that Pocket Navy. Like for real,
yeah.
I really love that gun.
It's like if I'm in a Western history mood, I'm really liking the 66. If I'm in an Eastern history mood, I'm really liking the Southern Mountain Rifle right now.
There you go.
Okay. Louisiana Gray said, and I thought your choice for favorite gun snapper would be your Dragoon.
I would say it would be one of my top three. I love it a lot, but I go through those kind of periods where there's some ones I love others. I would say if my house was burning down, the first two guns I would go for would be my 82 single action, probably the Dragoon over the Navy, but I would try grabbing all three. Everything else I would try go for later, but that would be my two favorite.
Mm-hmm.
You think the Griswold and Gunnison would be up there, but it's really not that good of a gun. I love it. It's cool, but it's not the kind of gun you want to shoot a lot. It's just not very well made.
Yep. Alexander says, have you guys ever heard about the Colt Berdan Russian in 4570? I have. I got a book on the subject of Colt conversions, and it's basically a trapdoor, but it's a little different.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so.
There's several different Berdan Colt conversions, but the one he's talking about, yeah, that is pretty cool guns. Let's see. Lagan Leland says, and you guys will have to answer this because I haven't. Have y'all ever been to Tombstone, Arizona? Been thinking about visiting it?
Nope.
Love it. It's my favorite place on the planet.
I ain't been there yet, but I want to get down there and meet Santee someday.
It's nice. It's one of those places that it's either overwhelming or underwhelming. Like it's a very small town in the middle of nowhere desert. And what I love about it is they don't allow new buildings. There's only like one new building in the entire town, and it's like a Dollar General, which is kind of funny. But every other building is like at least original or looks original. There's not much to do in the town except for the actual area right there. It's just beautiful because it's original stuff. You feel the history there. And there's still a lot of historical things there to see and do. It is a little over touristy, but you can get away from that. You really can. if you're just into the history and just look around and just look at what you're walking on and seeing. At least for me, because there's not much history you could see here. It's more than 20 years old here. They destroy it and bury it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've kind of noticed that on historical sites. Like a lot of times, if you're into movies and like Western movies, when you go to the actual site, you'll be underwhelmed. But a lot of times, if you're into the actual history and you go to the site, then you're overwhelmed.
that's exactly. My parents actually said they went before I ever went, and they said you're going to hate it. It was boring. We just quickly drove through it and got out, and we did a couple things. It was extremely boring, and then they thought we were not going to like it at all. I mean, my wife went there, and at the end of the third day, we were begging to stay longer because my parents had to leave. And they're like, "Oh, we'll stay." I was like, "No, no, no! You guys are absolutely not having fun. They were not having it. They were. You could tell they were just miserable. They were just having fun that we were just there."
They're not the kind of people interested in how many square-headed horseshoe nails they used in a plank in the sidewalk.
Nope, but we are. We are. Yeah, my parents thought we were going to absolutely hate it, and then they were just so shocked that we were like, "Oh, we want to stay longer." So, yeah, it was one of those things. If you do go, though, you have to go to Johnny Ringo's grave. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Absolutely have to do it. It's like an hour trip, but you have to do it. It's part of the whole experience.
Yeah, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
No, Doc, Santee's working in Old Tucson, but if I ever get down to Tombstone or into that whole area, I'm going to be close enough that I consider it Santee's area.
Yeah.
I
wish I could have went to that
years ago.
Red Dead thing they did. That would have been fun.
Yeah. So any time I'm in Arizona, that's going to be Santee's area for me. I'm definitely going to find him. Himmy Dad said 72 open tops are a dream for pointing. I prefer the Navy grips than 44 Colt. Diane Houston said, Duke, was your friend's Pieta 1873 the California edition?
I have no idea. I just know it was it's a stainless steel, real period gun. One of the best actions I've handled on a 73. But that forcing cone, of course, once he got it fixed, I mean, it was shot like a dream. It actually tightened up the group, brought it closer to point of aim. But before he did that, I mean, it was shooting 3.5 feet to the left and about 1.5 feet high. And once he did that, it's shooting 8 inches left and 8 inches high.
Mm-hmm.
Forcing cone is pretty important.
Yeah. Classic Guns Today needed to sign off. Actually, they're pretty good for safety too. You kind of want a little bit of a funnel sometimes instead of just lead smacking the frame.
Yeah.
Alexander said, an interesting question. Is it possible to load a trapdoor like a muzzle loader? Yes and no. You have to buy a kit. Some people do it in countries where they are not allowed to have, like reenactors aren't allowed to have actual cartridge guns, but you have to actually have a firing pin kit, but it's a tube with a nipple on the back of it that the hammer can strike, because without that conversion, you can't do it because there's no firing channel for the, you have to have a primer inside the gun without that conversion. And if you do it that way, you're going to leak a lot of gas, and it's not ideal. They only, like I said, only a couple of guns I've seen people had converted them to fire in like European reenactments. It's kind of a weird thing. Other than that, no, you got to have some kind of fire channel for the cap.
Can you imagine how dumb it's going to get now that the whole Alec Baldwin thing happened?
Well, you're not going to be allowed to have a 4-click hammer anymore.
You're probably not going to have anything that's real anymore.
Oh, on movies and reenactment, you mean? Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
They're going to get stupid, real stupid, I feel.
Well, Duke kind of already lives in that world because he's reenacting all the time. You're allowed to use real guns still, aren't you, Duke?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it was basically just come down as a major safety violation.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Hopefully
no,
it doesn't have too much
I don't
effect.
think I think it's going to pass over here because, I mean, it was just some idiot that shouldn't have been handling a gun, but he was.
Mm-hmm. That's good. The these people usually are. It's always the gun's fault instead of the person. Glad that they're at least recognizing it's the person's fault. Hopefully.
Yeah. Question. John Leonard asks, how effective is 36?
It gets the job done.
It'll definitely kill the crap out of you.
Unless you're Nathan Bedford Forrest, then it probably won't get the job done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, also, Jesse James, he got shot with 36 and that didn't kill him.
Yeah. But there's a lot of guns back then that wouldn't kill you necessarily, but 36 is, in my opinion, it does just as good a job for the most part as 44. He said, especially with round ball conical compared to 44. This is an interesting, and I know, Duke, you have some takes on this, but if you read Six Guns by Elmer Keith, he talks about the Confederate soldiers preferring the round ball because of more blunt force trauma than piercing.
Right.
They said a round ball would take a man out of a saddle quicker than a conical. I don't know if that's true or not, but you had some experience with that, didn't you, Duke?
Yeah, I was using Johnson and Dow copies in a 44, and we were shooting at a target, and what they'd done at that range is they'd taken these old tractor tires, and then they'd screwed some old conveyor belting on there, which is rubber with cotton fiber in it. And Colt Cartridge Works Navy, I mean, they'd punch right through, but them Johnson and Dows would hit that, and they'd come flying right back. I mean, they'd flatten out and come flying right back. And I had one at 15 yards smack me in the leg hard enough that I thought it went through my pants and everything, but it didn't. It just left a nasty bruise. But when my uncle and I walked up there, I mean, every one of those bullets I'd fired that day, I'd fired like 20-something rounds. We picked every one of them up between me and the target. So they weren't penetrating. But Colt Cartridge Works would just pop right on through.
I wonder if that's because you had more velocity on the round ball.
No, the Colt Cartridge Works was a conical.
Yeah, I get that, but you said the round balls were going through and the car.
Oh yeah, round balls that well, they weren't going through, but they were getting in and staying in. They basically penetrating halfway through.
That's what I was saying. I wonder is because it was a lighter projectile by a lot.
Yeah,
because it was getting so much more velocity when it hit,
and got a little bit more powder behind that too.
Yeah, if that's true, I forgot about that. You can load more. Himmy Dad said never going to buy a 4-click single action army. Well, good luck because they're getting rarer and rarer.
They're the best.
He said never going to buy a non 4-click. I should have said.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. I would never. I love the 4-click.
You got to either get a Pieta or get it from Cimarron. And if Pieta's not putting a forcing cone in them, that's not a good deal.
You know what, Cimarron really, Uberti really needs to make a 4-click hammer to sell on the side for people who don't want the 3-click system.
Okay, another question Alexander asks. Another interesting question. Can you load a 69 caliber Charleville with a 69 caliber mini ball? If so, what will be the result? Yeah, Snapper just looking at the camera. Well, you're probably gonna want more of a 68 caliber mini ball if you want to do it. It's gonna tumble like crazy when it gets out of there because there's gonna be no spin on it. But we've actually shot some, and really difference is at close range it'll make a giant keyholing hole in whatever you're shooting at, but not too good at long range. Now, Soylent Green says, American Revolutionary War reenactments here in the East have gone nuts. Lots of sites no longer allowing battles, calling it disrespectful. They want living history only, and attendance is way down, killing the history.
Wow. No battles? Like, isn't that like the fun part that gets people to show up?
Yeah. Soylent Green says that's like, whoop, we lost Duke. He'll be back. That's like shooting propane tank, 45 ACP, bounces off sometime, but 9mm or faster round zips through. Sometimes. I've also seen, though, on like liquid, I can tell you that a slower, heavier bled will penetrate further, but that's not something I'm real sure on. Oh, man, I wish Duke was back. Maybe he's coming back. He says, because there's some questions here. Does Pieta action kind of feel squishy to anyone else? I tell you, go ahead.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess define squishy.
Probably a lighter hammer.
I can see. I know Pieta does feel like they have a way lighter hammer, but either I'm not sensitive enough to realize like any squishiness to them. I think they feel pretty good.
Yep. Soylent Green said Cimarron's 7th Cavalry Colt single action is Uberti made in 4 clicks. Yeah, that's why you have to go through Cimarron. Sadly, if you want a Uberti, it's got 4 clicks anymore.
That's actually the gun I want. I want to get one with 7th Cavalry replicas.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Okay, I guess you can answer this because you have all of these, but Uncle Chaw said, is the Cimarron Model P the most historically accurate single action army clone?
Well, it depends. Let's go in the depends here. There are some things that none of the replicas have right, but they're close. I would say the Model P, the old Model P, the one with the screw. With everything I could think of, they're fairly close. The cylinders are a little big. The frames are a little different, but anything that you can normally look at, hold, and tangent, they're correct for most people. Even like the guns like the 7th Cav, where they have all the markings on them, the markings actually aren't correct. They're either too big or they're in a little bit different font, so you can't just replicate the gun and make it look like the real thing. They're close, but they're not perfect. The one of the big things with the originals,
grip knurling or hammer knurling.
Yes, the hammer knurling, the grip, and the grip. They're nothing like an original. I always tell people, if you want to know what it's like if you can't hold an original, there's a company that makes like really cheap plastic replica grips. Like they're not replica grips; they're like for the real gun. Like you could buy an actual like set of grips for an original Colt, but they're just really cheap plastic. But they're molded from an original grip. The one with like the Colt logo on it with the eagle and whatnot. If you buy one for a first generation gun from one of these websites, so they're like $40 for these set of like plastic grips, right? You get those and you fit them to the gun. Like, so take the wood ones out and then you literally file that frame to fit the dimensions of that plastic grip, and then put a set of wood grips in and file those to the dimensions where the other ones were. Then you can actually have an original perfect grip, what it's like. The replicas are way wider, and they're just a different angle, a little bit different angle. It's something that's you don't notice it until you actually hold an original. And to me, I think the originals feel a lot better. They're a little bit skinnier. They're not as big. The modern stuff just feels too big to me.
Yeah, but kind of the question was, what's the closest of the single action army clones?
I would say the closest you could get would be like a Cimarron would be probably the closest you could get. The 4-click system, like I guess that'd be their Pieta version, right?
Mm-hmm. Or the
I think that'd be
you can get a Uberti 4-click, but you have to get it through Cimarron.
Okay. I'm trying to think of any of the Uberti. Some of the Ubertis I've seen, they're close. They're very close, but I've always noticed that the frame sizes on the replicas are bigger. The cylinder is bigger. You can't put an original cylinder in a replica. Or excuse me, backwards. You can't put a replica cylinder in an original Colt. It won't fit. They're too big. They're close enough though that by sight, I would say the Cimarron old Model P is probably the closest you can get. With the Ubertis probably coming in the second.
Well, the Cimarron old Model P is usually a Uberti.
Yeah. Is it usually the Uberti?
They call their Pieta is called the Frontier, but I know what you're saying.
Okay.
And I think Duke will back me up on this. The one thing Pieta has over them, because it used to be that Pieta had the better spring systems. Now Pieta is using the coil springs too, from what I can understand. For the hand, anyway. Is that right, Duke?
Yep.
So Pieta's using the whole hand plunger thing too?
Yep.
Yeah. And if you get down to the nitty gritty, I think Pieta has stamped knurling on the hammer, and
Yep.
Uberti has engraved or laser engraved.
Laser engraved. Yep.
And that makes a difference. I mean, just looking at it.
Yeah.
So the Pieta would be closer in that respect.
In that respect, yes, it'd be closer.
Yep. Let's see. Is there a good Charlottesville repo out there? Well, here's the deal. If you go watch our channel, go watch Pedersoli versus Military Heritage. We show off an original, and I think Ethan shows off a Pedersoli Brown Bess. And we show off a India-made Military Heritage. And as far as the original goes, what's funny was the Military Heritage Charlottesville actually came out the closest to the original. And that's because originals were made a little rough, just to put it politely. But yeah, if you go watch on our channel on 11 Bang Bang, if you really want to know about that in-depth dive, go watch Pedersoli versus Military Heritage. He said he got a Pedersoli Brown Bess. Let's see. Here you go. I can't even remember how to pronounce it.
Chelonianism.
Chelonialism. Well, that's why Snapper is got his name.
Yep. May the chief in the shell protect you.
Oh, that's funny. I haven't heard of that in a long time. Oh.
I still remember the first time I went up after they jumped off the mountain, and then John just jumps off the mountain too, and you can't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's funny.
Now remember, John, when the time comes, you got to run and don't look back. This is over.
It wasn't part of the plan. We had a plan.
I had a plan.
I had a plan.
And then like 5 minutes later, I don't have a plan.
That's more of John.
It's always another train.
Arthur, we had a plan. Soylent Green.
You guys heard that they supposedly put out a confirmation that the third is being made?
It's in the works, yep.
Yeah, I'm excited. Probably not going to be like for like 10 years or something, but I'm excited.
Soylent Green says, yes, Snapper. Everyone that shows up asks us when the battle is. That's the main attraction, but they evidently don't have the battle anymore. I don't know what he was saying, but Task Force Tyler said 9 out of 10 doctors recommend it.
Chelonianism.
Yeah, Byland, see, does anyone know where I can get a mold for a 69 caliber mini ball? Might be getting the Plymouth rifle in the near future. That would be awesome. To be honest, we're looking for one too because we got that Brunswick. Bye, Snap. Bye, dude. You left again. The Brunswick needs one too, or a winged bullet. And so, yeah, we need to get in one too.
That's going to be weird. I can't wait to see that. That's cool.
Yeah, 730 grain mini ball. Yeah. Lyman used to make one Track of the Wolf. Thanks, Soylent. Okay, a couple more questions here. Carl Henning asked, do you prefer Uberti London model over the Navy Uberti 1851?
Oh, just the black versus the just, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Duke's calling it, guys, for the evening. We're gonna come out of here pretty quick too. He keeps losing signal.
Okay.
So we'll run for a little while longer, maybe another 20 minutes or so. What do you say? We'll go 2.5 hours tonight. We got to go for a while because it may be a while before we get a chance to do another live. You got any thoughts, Snap?
Well, I would say out of the box, the London one looks kind of more accurate because very few original navies were made with brass. They were silver plated brass. They were brass, but they were silver plated. Yeah. And looking brass, it was pretty rare for them to come out of the factory that way.
Yeah. I'm a fan of the London model, even though I don't even have one at the moment. I have had one, but I'm a fan of the London model just because I like something a little different.
Yeah.
And, everybody and their dog has a brass frame. And so that's the only reason. That's literally the only reason. It doesn't change anything internally. Uncle Chaw said, thanks for the answer. Lagan Leland said, have you ever heard of the Blackwater Massacre of 1899? Yes. Matter of fact, I was
Unfortunately.
there. I've been there 4 times now. Matter of fact,
I'm pretty sure Garrett was shot there in that massacre.
Yeah. Funny thing is, the second time we went back was more deadly than the first time, but nobody talks about that. Getting off that boat, I can't see how they shot more people the first time than we did the second time getting out of there, because I'm pretty sure I stacked up maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 citizens. Yeah, you want a fire breathing Auto 5. Oh, so John Leonard, any news on the wheel lock? Been waiting since I saw the 90s Disney's Four Musketeers. Yeah, it is, like I said at the beginning of this chat, it is literally sitting down there in Ethan's workshop right now. I saw it the other day. It is all but done. I mean, all but. He has just been real busy, and he's away for a couple weeks, so he won't be getting it done for at least a couple weeks, but it will be ready before and completely finished by Thanksgiving. He hasn't done the finish work on the metal. He hasn't done the finish work on the wood, but it is built. And building one of those things out of castings, especially that lock, that turned out to be a project, but he got it done.
I bet. I'm proud of him for even taking it on.
Yeah. Christopher Mead said, good evening. Good evening. Oh man, Brandon, you must be in here for a long time. Are y'all still planning on the 1851 squirrel hunt? Wow, that's been like 2 years ago, I think, that we talked about that. Oh, I need to do that. We've talked about, it's been a long time. We were talking about making a squirrel rifle out of a revolver at one point. You remember that? It's been a long time ago.
Yeah. It has been a long time. We still got it. We got to do that. That's going to be fun.
Yep.
When we going to use a 49 pocket, though, or we're going to use a 51 Navy?
Yeah, we were talking about doing it with a 49 pocket model. But yeah, we need to just do a 51 Navy. I've actually hunted squirrels with 51 Navies too, at a little bit of success. I think I've got 1 or 2. But yeah, we need to do that.
We do. That would be fun.
Can't guarantee we'll hit anything, but we can at least try. Lagan Leland said the Blackwater Massacre was a fearsome battle between the infamous Vanderlinde gang. Vanderlinda gang.
Vanderlinda.
And the Pinkerton,
that was a cross-dressing version of Vanderlinde.
I think that the Vanderlinda gang was just slightly. I think that their evilness has just been overhyped. I think that they're misunderstood. Ain't no way, bro. Let's see. Hit the like button, guys. Himmy Dad said, hey, I would appreciate it. Gina Woods says, howdy, guys. I hope you are all doing well. Love my boys. Yep. Jay Wheeler's in. Hi, Jay. He said, what's up, guys?
Hey, Jay.
He said, didn't realize y'all were on. Yeah, we just had a minute, so we did an impromptu. The battle ended with hundreds of Pinkertons getting killed menacingly and 3 members of the Vanderlinde gang being fatally injured.
That is an interesting fight, apparently.
Okay. And Task Force is he's responding to all these. It was even adapted into a book by Jay Marston. I didn't know Jay Marston wrote a book. Did he? He
technically did, yes. If you ever, it's apparently one of the other games. I believe it's the Grand Theft Auto series. There's a book in the background behind one of the people that literally says Red Dead Redemption by Jack Marston.
Oh, Jack Marston. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking of John. I was like, I'm pretty sure we followed him through everything. I don't know when he had time to write it down.
No, apparently Jack Marston wrote a book, and that's
the fan lore. We know he lived at least a few years after #1 then.
Yep.
Good idea. How do was it great? Okay, Lagging Leland also comments, do you have any slug throwers in y'all's collection? I have a bunch of them. If you're talking about shotguns. Prefer the Colt 1878 myself, or its replica from Cimarron,
That's what I'd love to have my hands on.
side by side.
Yeah.
Okay, John Leonard. Thoughts on the Merwin Holbert revolvers and why aren't there any replos? Same thing for the
They're
Alaskan
so
Colt.
nice. I want a Merwin Herbert. It's supposedly one of the best ever
Best
made guns.
engineered.
Best engineered, best manufactured.
Yeah. You know,
But,
they have the that cylinder slide is so finely machined that it's airtight. When you pull it out, it'll suck itself back in.
Yeah, and that's crazy for a gun that's well over 100 years old. Like, I've machined parts to do that. It's not that hard to do, but a gun being that old on a rotating surface, and then I've never seen one not do that. Well, I haven't seen very many of them in person, though. I've seen like 6, and they were all able to do that still. But I want one. I've always wanted one just because of the hype of what it is.
Yeah. I've been on the cutting edge of buying what Caleb has, buying one more than once, and it just never works out in the end. But the reason they don't make replicas of that kind of thing is because they would have to set up completely new machinery. And by the time they made it, it would cost more for the replica than to buy an original, which the originals are like $1,200. A lot of times you can get an original for something like that. And so it's like, if you're going to pay $1,200 for that or $1,600 for a replica, like a lot of replicas are now, you know, I don't think not enough people know about them to make their money back. Or the Alaskan Colt. The Alaskan Colt, are you talking about the 92 with the big trigger guard?
That's the one I'm thinking of. That's the only one I could think of that ever got the Alaskan name.
Well, once again, I think you can buy an original. I'm not sure about those exactly, but not enough people would probably be interested in it.
I always thought it looked butt ugly because it had such a large trigger guard.
Does look ugly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I can see the plan. I had a plan, or okay, sorry, that's Task Force. Soylent Green said, if you use your 72 open top, you can drop them out of a tree from your window. They won't know what hit. Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe. Probably not more than once. Brandon Burt said, I really want to make an 1851 revolver carbine, but we will get there eventually. I ended up bagging 7 red squirrels and 3 gray. Saw a lot more, but I couldn't get a shot off. Oh.
I think a carbine like 51 carbine would be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I know they actually made something like that, like the Belgian. I believe they're Belgian made. Yeah.
Stephen and Man said 150 Muckwa Express.
That's an impressive round right there.
Yeah, and by Land and Sea, Doc said, I'm not sure if any of the current repro companies would be up to the machining requirements for the Merwin Holberts. The machining was superb. Yes. I think that's why
you probably wouldn't get the quality.
Snapper likes them so much. It's a machinist's dream.
Yep. Anything high quality is just, you can't beat it.
Yeah, Brandon Birch said, you guys have Facebook. I've reached out to Ethan, but I haven't bothered him yet. Yeah, Ethan has a Facebook. I think I don't. He has been away. Like, we've been stocked up for the last couple of months, and he hasn't even checked his email. And right now he's away with the Army and will be for quite some time. And I don't think he can stay answer email where he's at. So, but yeah, you have Facebook, Snapper. I don't know if you want to just give that out though.
I don't. I have an Instagram one. I have an Instagram. I believe it's the regular Snapper. I gotta set it up more. I just set it up to review something once, and I was like, "Oh crap!" A bunch of people subscribe to it, so I need to start putting stuff on there.
Mm-hmm. Jay Wheeler said, you think the repro Schofields are expensive? If they done a Merwin and Holbert, they would be very high. Yeah.
I would bet so.
Especially
how it's not a very complex gun, but yeah, being very niche, they'd have to charge a lot of money for it just because of there's nothing on that gun that would really replicate to any other thing they're making. Yeah. Everything would be different.
I can also only think of one movie off the top of my head that they're in, and that is old Buck Taylor has one in the Rough Riders at the very beginning when they're robbing the stagecoach. Okay. And John Leonard said 1878 double action. Ouch, sorry. Big brother of the Lightning and the Thunder. We're pretty familiar with those. I need to get a 78 though.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun to have one. It definitely would be. Just be able to shoot 45 Colt for double action.
Yeah. Would be cool. When's the next Tales of the Trails, Diane? Can't say for sure because Duke's got a lot of moving around to do. And I'm actually going to be with him in a week, but I don't know if we're going to have time to actually do one. But we will let you know heads up a couple days before that happens. Hopefully, if everything settles down a little bit towards the end of October, we'll get. But we've literally been like Ethan and I were doing like literal 16-hour days for 2 months straight, and we just did not have the time. And things are still going to be kind of crazy after this rain dries up until mid-October. Then hopefully we'll get back to a regular scheduled lives.
You were working so hard, you're making me tired.
I think Garrett's character arc from villain to hero was very well done. Had me on the edge of the seat. Yeah. Tall Tales with Patrick Swayze as Pecos Bill. I might have missed a comment in there. Task Force Tyler said Garrett's my favorite character. I don't know if they're talking about the game anymore, the character I'm not remembering, or me.
I have no idea. Probably.
That video was okay. That video was 3 years ago. I'm still waiting on the Model 3 and 44 specials so we can shoot the 44 Russian. They only in 45 Colt and 44 40. Did I miss something there? Is he talking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about, Soylent Green. He might have been talking about the 51 Navy video. I don't remember. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there's Merwin and Holberts and Bone Tomahawk, one in the beginning. Oh, I have to check that out. I don't remember that.
It's the one that Ethan made where you could shoot he shot a cow bone, see if it go through it or
yeah, that was. I don't want to talk about that gun. Had a sad story.
Oh, is that the one that?
And nickel plating went wrong. We're not going to talk about it. It's still around, but it just doesn't shoot very good anymore. Stephen and Man said, "Send me some good old Wyoming dirt. I miss it. The things we put ourselves through for a piece of dirt."
That is true.
Merwin Holbert's in that movie. All right, guys, we're going to go for 5 more minutes, and then that's going to be it. So if you got any actual questions there, throw them out there at the end. My camera's going in and out of focus, or my eyes are. I don't know which. So, getting sleepy there, Snapper?
Yeah, I used up all my energy on this stupid move. I'll probably be dead tired for the next year.
On what?
On this moving all this stuff back home. We're finally done.
Move.
Thank God.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have to go to Arizona anymore. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, when's that new single action army going to be on the shelf behind you, or is it already?
No, that one's the one that I sent out to old Santee.
Oh, yeah.
So I already miss it, man. It's so weird. I fell in love with that gun, as I always do. I love single actions, but he'll have it, and I figured it'd be a good one for him. This will be like the first gen he'll ever get to like play with.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured it would be
like that video where he did with his 3rd gen, where he spins it and say until he drops it.
Oh yeah. Well, I just told him try not to break it. That's all I ask, and I told him he could shoot it as long as he loaded up.
You'll fix it.
Yeah, truthfully, I mean that's kind of the way it is. I've gotten to the point with some guns, like I buy guns like that when I bought it inexpensively enough that I like the fact that I can lend it out and let it. If something happens to it, it's fixable. It's not like, I mean, as long as nothing major crazy happens, which it won't, because I've already shot it a bajillion times. The only way that something bad would happen to the gun is if somebody put the wrong ammunition in it, which we're trying to make sure those precautions can never happen. Make sure those things can't happen. But, at worst, it's going to break a spring. And I'm just glad that he'll be able to shoot an original. So.
Jay Wheeler, kind of leading into my next question for you. Snapper, do you have any old guns or anything in the works?
I'm still working on the 1860 Army, the barrel, so I can get that thing finally shootable. It's shootable, but it's not like correct shootable. I want to have an original rifling inside of it. And I have the original barrel fixed, but I don't have the original rifling in it. I got a new barrel that I found for really cheap and a frame, but it had been modified to go on a gun that was already converted. So I either got to do something with that, or I'm going to sacrifice that whole barrel for the rifling, which I don't think I want to do because it's kind of a nice barrel. Other than that brand new single action Army, getting more videos on it. I really don't have anything in the works at the moment.
Outside of weighing every screw and piece of a Pieta Remington versus an original.
Yeah, I got that is one thing that I got to get done. That I completely forgot about that. I need to get this Remington that Garrett owns, original and a replica, back to him pretty soon.
John Leonard want to know if you're in a shadow or just really sweaty.
In a shadow, I'm not very sweaty.
And Stephen M. Mann said, what? No Elmer Keithan, your original 73 single action? This guy doesn't even shoot full 40 grain powder loads in his originals.
Yeah, I know. I'm ashamed. I'm a complete ashamed of the entire establishment. But I need to get. I've actually been thinking about that 1891 I have, the 7.5 inch barrel. I'm thinking about putting some 40 grains through it just for fun. I'm not scared to shoot that one with heavy loads.
Took me a minute to get this one. Franklin Horse said wrong ammo in it equals rust. Id. as in the movie.
Oops. I think I get where he's going. Yeah.
Garrett, try Welsh suspenders. I would, but my brother works in leather and he keeps fixing these up for me. I've had them for a long time. And Jay Wheeler said, better extra safe than sorry.
Yeah. It's a lot of money to just watch a single action explode.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I've kind of kept from that. I don't know why, but when it comes to especially the black powder frame guns, I know that those guns handled 40 grain pressures all day long when they're new. Just it's 140 years old, and yeah.
Now snapper metal doesn't degrade if it doesn't rust.
I know that, but I'm a coward when it comes to those.
You're a coward to the big pile.
I'm a coward. It's a lot of money to just watch go poof in front of you. Something happened to it.
Yep.
I'm sure it would be fine. I've shot 35 grains through them all day long, but I prefer just light loads.
Yep. Well, we're not quite to 2.5 hours, but I think I'm about to shut her down. How about you?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yep. Anyway, thank you all for. Okay, one more thing here. John Leonard said, was there a model of Walker with a late model lever latch, or was that a repro I saw? They absolutely exist.
They absolutely exist, yep. People were modifying those things for a very long time.
They didn't do it at the factory that I know of necessarily, but if your loading lever keeps falling down and somebody can fix it, I'm pretty sure that's what you'll have them do.
Yep.
Let's see. I think you're the one. You came so close to buying one with a modified latch, didn't you?
Yep. I came really close. Really close. Scary, stupid close. Like second highest bit close.
He was texting me every 5 minutes, and I'm pretty sure he was on hyperventilation because he was never thinking about spending that much money on a gun. And then there he was.
And there I was. Close, very close. Man, I swear, I wish that other person would have shown before I did, because that probably would have ended up with it. It actually had a front. The front loading latch had a very similar style to the 1860 Army, because it was actually used in the Civil War. It had been modified, and it was carried through the Civil War from then. Believe it or not, there's several of them that have modified front latches.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that we got that one out, now poor
Oh.
Snapper's not going to sleep because he.
Yeah, I'm not going to sleep tonight going, "What? I wish I would have bought that thing."
Okay, well, thank you all for coming out. Stay tuned. We'll have a video out on 11 Bang Bang on Sunday. Maybe a short out tomorrow. I don't know yet or not. It's going to be a little bit more of a dry spell, especially on the shorts and stuff. I'm going to be on the road for the next week and a half or so. So y'all stay safe and see y'all later. Bye.
Bye, guys.